Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding.
The myth held tight, every scholar zip. But one slipped up, caught on clip.
The standard narrative has holes in it.
They told me one Quran, not a single word gone. But the Sunnah manuscripts got me saying hold on. Beneath the script the shadow bleeds, the edict seep. Burned by man's hand, still the smoke runs deep. Perfect preservation, that's the lie they spread. While Zerkadi whispers, it's complicated. Tankirat, which one did Allah protect? Or did the best of deceivers let the versions intersect?
Narrative has holes in it. Holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes.
Man gathered all the scrolls and sheets, burned the copies, erased competing beats. To unify, he chose one written script, but in that fire, true version slipped. If Allah promised his word would last, why did some pages burn? Why weren't they cast into man's guard, kept safe and whole? What truth was lost? What's left untold? And Aisha spoke with no disguise. A sheep once true, the sacred lines. Verses gone, no longer read. Missing words from what's been said. If God's word is perfect, why the missing lines? Why the silent gaps through all the times? If it's truly kept, why the torn afraid? Why do some chapters just fade away? They preach a tale that sounds complete, but history whispers in retreat. If Allah preserved each word with care, why purge the parts they couldn't bear? The cracks run deep, no place to run. The claim of truth comes undone. If verses fade and lines are gone, then who still swears he guards the Quran?
Welcome. We are live. What are you laughing at?
It just, you're just looking like you're trying to be tough, and it's funny.
I am tough, okay? We're live with Dr. Joshua Sijuwade. Welcome back to the channel, sir. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thank you for the invite. It's going to be a great evening.
Excellent. Yeah, for those asking, no, it's not an AI song, that opening. That was not. That is from Polemic Pulse. They have a channel. You can just go get the song there. I'll try to add it to below here in a minute. So today we have a live call-in show with Dr. Joshua Sijuwade. This was all his idea. This is what he wanted to do. So he's the one who wanted the headache.
Yeah. I want that added to my life on top of the kids and everything.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel you, Josh.
Yeah, so that's fine. We're going to have a live call-in show with some Muslims. We have put the link in the chat. If you are a Muslim, click on that. We're not going to, if you're a Christian, please just try not to. In fact, don't, because this is a conversation between us and a Muslim. We're going to go through this one at a time. We're going to talk about if Islam is true, if Christianity is true, various topics like that. That's just generally what we're going to do. And you have some limited time today. So you ready to dive right in?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go for it.
All right. Awesome. So we already got somebody in here, got a couple people in here. We're going to let the first guy in and we'll just have some conversations with him. So let's add him in here. Hamza, how you doing today?
Hello, everyone.
So you're a Muslim?
Hello. Yes. Are you guys doing good today?
Doing good. You a Muslim?
Oh, yes, I am.
Excellent. So you Shia, Sunni, you Sunni?
Sunni.
Yeah.
I'll explain why Islam is true.
All right. You want to explain why Islam is true?
Yes.
All right. So let's start with Let's start with some stuff here. So he's going to explain for us why Islam is true. So I'm going to give you the floor here. Go ahead and just give us an argument for why Islam is true, and then we'll let our expert philosopher here, Joshua Sijuwade, respond. So go on and list your argument.
All right. In the Bible, it says that Satan cannot cast himself out because of.
Oops, sorry, my mistake.
Oh.
Sorry, can you say that again? I accidentally dropped you out because I hit the wrong button. Say that again.
Okay.
Start over.
In the Bible, it says Satan cannot cast himself out because it would divide his kingdom and he would be weakened, right?
Satan cannot cast himself out?
Because it will weaken his kingdom.
Oh, you're talking about when Jesus in Matthew 12 was casting out demons,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So in that, it's the Pharisees accused Jesus of casting out demons with the power of Beelzebub. And he says, will Satan be kingdom be divided? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes,
so go
that's
on.
what I'm referring to. Okay. Just one question. Can Satan cast out black magic?
Can Satan cast out? Yeah, it's for you. Go ahead. Yeah, what do you think?
Can Satan cast out black magic?
Yes.
I potentially see that maybe as a possibility. It's not very, I mean, philosophically, maybe saying an analysis of the sort of powers that Satan has, that might be a possibility, but everything's under the providential control of God. So it's only if God permits that type of thing.
Would that weaken his kingdom?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Would that weaken his kingdom?
If he cast out black magic, potentially.
Yes,
what's the main sort of line of argument you're giving?
Magic from demons.
Okay, so how does this show that Islam is true?
Simple. In Bukhari 3268, it says Allah has cured black magic from the Prophet. There you go.
So how does that? That's a non sequitur. Non sequiturs are where the conclusion that you're drawing that Islam is true doesn't follow from your premises. So the premise that you put forward is that that Allah has been able to cure black magic from His Prophet. How does that show that Islam, the 6 tenets of Islam, so the 6 sort of articles of faith, that there's one God, the Quran, angels, belief in judgment, belief in the afterlife, all of these sort of articles of faith, how does it sort of show, how do you show that that's true just from your premise that Allah has been able to remove black magic from the Prophet?
Firstly, because as you said, a demon cannot cast out other demons or even magic, right?
But you do know that God can decide, even if that person's not a follower of God, He can decide to go and perform good actions on that person. So I don't know how that will show Islam to be true.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Hamza, on this. Okay, so I was once watching a documentary. So these were real people. Right. They were practicing witchcraft. They claimed they went to a house and they got rid of all the evil spirits using witchcraft. So does that mean, because they can't, and so the people testify that witchcraft, the house was now cured. They were stopped being tortured by evil spirits because these witches came in and got rid of all of the evil spirits. Does that mean witchcraft is from Allah if that happened?
No.
Right. So maybe sometimes, given Satan is, of course, the deceiver. You would agree with us, Satan is the deceiver, right? He can very, very easily play tricks on people, make them think that he has gotten rid of some sort of curse when really he has just put a ruse over someone or put like a so to speak, a smoke screen over someone. So just like the appearance of possibly using like witchcraft to cast out like evil spirits doesn't actually mean it's from God, right? I mean, Satan can deceive people. He is, of course, the great deceiver. Yeah. So why would it follow that just because, it says in Bukhari that Muhammad claims Allah has got rid of this black magic curse, that would mean that's Islam is true. This is just, there's a lot of logical leaps here is what I think Dr. Sijuwade is trying to get at.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand your point.
Yeah, and just to say just about your first point when you brought up the Bible, the biblical verse about Jesus speaking about Satan divide his own kingdom. If Satan was doing the work or he was performing the actions that Jesus was doing or he was empowering him, you have to remember that Jesus' purpose was to inaugurate the kingdom of God. That's something Satan would not want to have been established on earth. And so if he was allowing Jesus or empowering Jesus to remove his demons, to perform the miracles that he was doing, and all those sort of things that he was performing on earth, he would be actually inaugurating the kingdom, which will be directly against him. But Satan could do things also to deceive people so that you could think that he's like Mike was saying, he can make you think that he's losing or something to deceive you into following, another way. So, for example, if let's say the witchcraft, the witches that Mike was talking about, they came and cleansed the people, I would, let's say those people there, they might now bow down to the witches, and that will be something that God will not want. So sometimes Satan as such can take an L, because his greater plan would be, actually, I want people to be deceived even further against the work of God. And so, I would just say to you that with the biblical exegesis doesn't support that position that then you're using to support the Quranic event of Satan being, Satan being that.
Hey, Hamza, I think you're being very respectful. I appreciate that. Can I ask you a question? Is that okay?
Sure. About Islam?
Yeah, about Islam. So would you ever, join a religion that has corrupted scriptures?
Oh, you're talking about like the lack of preservation for the Quran?
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. But just, this is not a trick question. Would you ever join a religion that has corrupted scriptures?
No.
Okay, so can you tell me, what are the 6 pillars of faith in Islam?
The belief in God. The
believe in God,
His books, in His angels, in His prophets, in the last day, and the Qadar. The Qadar is that God knows the things that are going to happen before it happens.
So predestination, something like that.
Yeah. Let's go to the books. You said books plural. What are the books though?
The books from God, the Injil, the Torah, the Quran, the Zabur, and many others that were given to the messengers that were sent to many nations.
Where is the Injil, the Torah, the Zabur? Where are those at?
Simple. They're oral revelations.
They're not actual books, though?
Yes, the Quran is called a book, but was it a physical book given to Muhammad? No.
So then would the Injil also be a book? Would the Psalms also be a book?
Yes, but it's an oral book from Gabriel to the prophets. It's not that hard to.
Yeah, I get it. But where are they today, though?
They've disappeared.
Are they in? But we have, like, for example, in our Bible, we have a Torah. Is that contain some of the original Torah that Allah gave to Moses? Is it completely different? Like, what's going on there?
Well, basically, the Torah, as far as I know, the early thing we have to Moses at least 1,000 years after him. And yes, there are some parts of the Torah still remaining. Some.
So wouldn't that mean it's like, so we have some of the Torah then, according to you?
Yes.
What happened to it then? Like, why can't I say it's actually the book of Allah? Yeah.
The other parts? They've been lost. I think you're referring to 6:115 about God's word not changing.
No. I'm just asking basically about the Torah, because I'm trying to figure out because you said of the 6 pillars of faith, you got to believe in his books. So I'm trying to figure out where is the Torah, for example, the book of Allah.
Some parts of it has been lost. Some parts of it hasn't been preserved.
So if parts of it has been preserved, wouldn't that mean that some of it's been corrupted, though, if we've lost it?
Yes, we lost it.
So it's been corrupted then?
Corrupted, the physical book, yes.
But so let's just think about this for what you said. You said you would never join a religion that has corrupted scriptures. But according to Islam, the Torah is a book of Allah that has been corrupted. So why would you be in Islam if the religion has corrupted scriptures?
Mike, you good?
What?
You were glitching in and out for a second there, Mike.
Okay, so let me just say that again. Okay, so you said you would never join a religion that has corrupted scriptures, okay? But then you just said that the Torah has been corrupted. So according to Islam, you have a religion that has corrupted scriptures.
Not really. I'll explain. Hold on. What you said is that corrupted scriptures. What I meant was I disbelieve in the corruption. Anything that has been added, I disbelieve in it, because it's not what God originally revealed. Anything that was originally revealed, I believe in it. Simple.
I agree. I think that makes total sense. The problem is that also means in Islam there are corrupted scriptures. The Torah has been corrupted. The Zabur has been corrupted. The gospel has been corrupted. Everything except the Quran. But that means Islam, because you have to believe in his books, you believe in scriptures that have been corrupted.
Mike, I said I disbelieve in corruption. That means I only believe in the book that was given. The book that was given are not corruptions. I don't believe in the corruptions of your book. I believe in the things that align with the Quran and Islam. That's what Jesus originally had.
So then what is that then? And where are these original books then?
These original books, you're referring to the Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
These original books were given to the prophets as oral revelation. People started writing down, right, what Jesus said. Some of them in 279. Now, I know this is in the context of Jews, but can also be used as a principle, which means applied to at all times. And coincidentally, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John all claim to be from God, even though they contradict the Quran, which is kind of ironic.
Okay, but yeah, but this is, again, I don't really think you're getting my point here. Okay, again, I wouldn't want to be in a religion that has corrupted scriptures. According to you, and according to what is going on here in Islam, you have multiple books that Allah has given, but most of those books have been corrupted. So then so then Islam, by definition, is a religion that has corrupted scriptures, even if you don't use them. I know you said you don't believe in them. That's not the problem. That's not what I'm trying to hit at. What I'm hitting at is, in the religion of Islam, you have the Quran, you have the Torah, you have the Gospel, you have the Psalms. But 3 out of those 4 books have been corrupted. Therefore, in the whole religion of Islam, the encompassing religion of Islam, it is a religion with corrupted scriptures.
You know what? Yes, I can admit that. But that doesn't really do anything to my faith. Or what would that conclude?
Okay, so then exactly. that brings me to another interesting question. So it's okay to be in a religion that has corrupted scriptures?
Yes, as long as I disbelieve in the corruptions and believe in the parts that aren't corrupt and that God removed.
So you're acknowledging that in Islam, scriptures can be corrupted then?
The physical book, yes.
Okay. You don't see that as a problem, though, that Allah's word can be corrupted?
No, because God already promised to preserve the Quran. He never promised to preserve the Injil, the Torah, or the Zabur. Simple.
He didn't? He didn't do that at all. So when he speaks about none can change the words of Allah, that's just referring to the Quran.
What you're talking about is 6115. It refers to his metaphysical words, not what's in a physical book.
Basically, well, that's not really what I was thinking of. I was thinking of some other verses. Okay, you go and explain, and I want to pull some stuff up.
What does it mean when Allah said, "I'll preserve the Quran"? He means the physical book. And what does it mean when Allah says, "None can change His words"? It means His metaphysical words.
Means His metaphysical words.
Yes.
So then, how do we know the Quran contains the metaphysical words? If the books can be corrupted, how do we know the Quran is just not a copy that's been corrupted, and his metaphysical words are somewhere else that haven't been corrupted? Okay, you just muted yourself.
I'm sorry. Someone came in. I had to pause for a second. Okay. Yeah. Look, you said, "How can we know the Quran is truly God's physical word?" Right? Simple. We look at the earliest manuscripts. You know the Birmingham one?
I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We look at the earliest one and see if there are any corruptions. As far as I can know, there isn't any.
So So what would be a corruption then? Changes? Like, do you think everything needs to be the same?
What do I mean by corruptions? Anything that has been added in, deleted. The idea itself, like, for example, I'm probably thinking you're gonna bring the Sanat manuscripts. Those manuscripts were for students. They made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But the original manuscripts from the companions of the Prophet were preserved, obviously. So what do I mean by that? Some verses, actually all of the verses, align with the manuscripts at the time of the Prophet, right? But some manuscripts at the time of the Prophet had mistakes inside of it. deletion, a couple of words, things like that. Do you understand my point?
Yeah, but that's not really my point. I wasn't going to bring a manuscript up. I'm just trying to get at the issue. Let's just go back. We started this conversation by saying we shouldn't be in a religion that has corrupt books. Then we went through a couple points and you realized, oh, wait, Islam does have corrupt books, the Torah, the Gospel, and the Injil. So now what I'm trying to figure out first of all, how do we know the Quran isn't corrupted? But that's not my main point, though. We're trying to talk more about how do we know that doesn't the Quran, we were talking basically about how Allah's words cannot be changed, and you went to one verse, but that wasn't the verse I was going to go to. I wanted to go to a different place, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, which one?
Okay, so I'm thinking more about now in Surah 15. Okay, the Quran is called a zikr, right? It means a reminder. Yeah. He promises to protect the zikr, right?
Yes.
But then if we go to Surah 21, we see that in 21:48, we see the zikr existed before Muhammad. It's given to Moses, predates the Psalms, according to Ayah 105. And it's possessed by the Jews and Christians in verse 7. So right then and there, we see that the Torah, the Gospel, are called a zikr. If Allah is going to protect his reminder, which would include the zikr, which would include the Torah and the Gospel, wouldn't that mean they need to be preserved?
Okay, yeah, you have a good point. To understand this, we have to understand that some verses in the Bible and Torah align with Islam and the Quran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because of that, what does it mean when it says dhikr, the Torah and the Injil? It means that the parts that agree with the Quran, that are not corruptions, that were revealed by God, or the dhikr, they have been preserved. Anything that is considered corruption, we should disbelieve in it immediately. So, and as you also said, hold on, Mike. I know.
I'm listening. I'm not saying anything. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Okay. As you said, Mike, God said he's going to protect the reminder. And you said that reminder in that same verse is the Quran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Therefore, Allah is saying that he's going to protect the Quran. Now, did he ever mention he's going to protect the dhikr as in the Torah or as in the Injil?
Can I just drop in a verse?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to dominate.
No, it's fine.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, thank you. So if you look at something like Surah 568, I'll just read it. It says, "Say, O Prophet, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the Gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And your Lord's revelation to you, O Prophet, will only cause many of them to increase in wickedness and disbelief. So do not grieve for the people who disbelieve." So it seems like it was more than just the oral form which was preserved, but it must have also been the written form that was existing at the time of the prophet, because the prophet is actually speaking to the community. And what he's reciting from Allah is that you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the Gospel, and what was revealed. So it couldn't have just been that Allah preserved the oral message of Moses or the oral message of Jesus, but it actually was the written copies of this that were existing at that time, if the people were going to be able to fulfill what Allah was saying of observing those specific texts.
That's my point. I said that in the Bible and the Torah, hold on, that there are some stuff that agree with the Quran. Therefore, that's what is being referred into 568. And to prove my point, to substantiate that, it says, whatever was revealed from your Lord. Now, who is your Lord according to the Quran? Allah. Now, could you go to 25:1?
25:1? Yeah, let me just pull that up for you here. You see. Sometimes that website gives me problems. Let me just do it through Google, because sometimes that works better. So you want me to read it?
Could you put it on screen?
Yeah. So blessed is the one who sent down the decisive authority to his servant so that he may be a warner to the whole world.
Now, hold on. In Islamic theology, the one who is for the whole world is Muhammad, Akid, right?
According to this, yeah.
He was given the what exactly?
He was given the decisive authority, the criterion specifically. Yeah, you can see the same thing in Surah 3. Yeah, same things in Surah 3, yeah.
Okay, and the criterion is what? The Quran, right?
It is a criterion, yes.
Therefore, since Christians and Jews in 568 have to judge by the Quran, because it was revealed from your Lord, and your Lord, according to the Quran, is Allah, right?
Sorry, I don't believe that that's what the verse is actually saying, because there seems to be a conjunction there. So it says, "O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord." So it's saying that there are multiple things that need to be observed here, not just the Quran, but the Torah. But once again, but it doesn't say that one is subordinate to the other here. It says you need to observe the Torah, and it doesn't specify parts of the Torah which are in line with the Quran and what's been revealed. It says you need to observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. So it seems to be that there are two things here. But I think Mike's point at the end of the day is there seems to be that you're committed to the position either way that a Muslim is holding to a corrupted scripture existing, and to be a Muslim, you are holding to not just the Quran, but you're also holding to corrupted scriptures being sort of made available by Allah, which seems to be problematic. Why would a Muslim want to follow a religion, as you were saying at the beginning, that doesn't just hold to, let's say, the purified scriptures, but also holds to there being corrupted scriptures, which you have to affirm as a Muslim? So my problem here is, you were saying at the beginning that the preservation is only for the oral message, but now you're moving to the position that the preservation was only for the parts of the written message. But it doesn't actually say that exegetically from what we're looking at. It seems to say that you need to follow the Torah without any specification of what in the Torah you need to follow, the gospel without any specification, and then also the Quran on top of it. So it seems like a Muslim has to follow the Quran and these supposedly corrupted scriptures.
And of course, if we had, this is another issue we pointed out many times, Surah 285, where Allah tells us we have to believe in the whole book, tells us not to believe in parts. This is the problem we have. Allah is saying believe in our books. Great, but then Muslims come along and say, no, only believe in the parts that agree with the Quran. But if Surah 285 says the exact opposite, believe in all of our books, every part of it.
Okay, let me address all of the points, right?
Go ahead.
You said that 568 doesn't specify that, but it does. As I've shown, Joshua, that 568 says Christians and Jews have to judge by the Quran, right? And in 25:1, the Quran is a criterion. Therefore, anything that agrees with the Quran is true. So the Gospel and the Torah in 568, 547, and 543 refer to the things that agree. And if that's not enough for you, go to Surah 3, ayah, or verse 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Yep, I've cited this many times. I can pull this up. Yeah. I just hit the.
I would like to address you on this too.
So 3 and 4. Okay. He has revealed to you, a prophet, the book in truth, confirming what let me say that again. Confirming what came before it, as he revealed the Torah and the gospel, previously as a guide for people, and also the decisive authority or criterion. Surely those who reject Allah's revelations will suffer severe torment, for Allah is almighty and capable of punishment. Now, I'm kind of confused how this passage helps you, given what verse 3 says, but I'll let you go ahead, and then I want to respond.
Okay. So notice how, okay, look, can God, just one question, can God give two different responsibilities for the same thing in two different verses?
Say that again. Can God give two different responsibilities?
For one thing in two different verses.
I honestly don't know what you mean, possibly, but you need to sort of elaborate a little bit more.
What do I mean by that? For example, can God say, I have, for example, revealed the Torah, confirming what came before it. As I have revealed the criterion, this is the context of previous scripture, the criterion, the Torah, over previous scripture to the people. So my point is that 3:4 is about the Quran being over previous scripture, right? Now, your response was, I think I watched some of your live streams, is that the Quran is already mentioned. So how can it be the criterion in 3:4? Am I correct?
That would not be the argument I was about to make, but you can go ahead. Because that's we'd have to get into that means we'd have to get into tafsirs, and I really want to just focus on the Quran today, but instead of getting too deep into the weeds.
Yeah, I know. I think that was David Wood's argument.
Yeah.
The problem with his argument is that previous scripture is already mentioned. So what is the criterion in 3:4 if it's not the Quran?
So you if you've watched the live streams, you know the point I've made about this, that when I was responding to a Muslim on this. This is an issue here. It doesn't use the same language we see in 548 where it says it's a guardian over the previous scriptures. It just says it's a decisive authority. Now, if you pair that with Surah 253, I believe, it says the Torah is also a furqan, a decisive authority or criterion. So if Surah 3:4 said it's the decisive authority or criterion over them, you would be right. It doesn't. It just says it's a decisive authority. And we've never contested, myself, David Wood, AP, Giant Davis, we've never contested that Quran says of itself that it is also a criterion, but it never says it's a criterion over the Torah and the Gospels. That's the problem. And that this ties back into the passage that Dr. Sijuwade was just bringing up. If we go back to Surah 5, if we go to Surah 48 just before 68, it talks about all of them being like authorities of Allah, and that he made them into different communities. So Christians have their criterion, Jews have their criterion, Muslims, you have your criterion as well. We are meant to be different communities to compete in good works, according to Surah 5. So yeah, we can agree with you that Quran is called a criterion. That's not a challenge to the Islamic dilemma, because the dilemma is successful because it never says, the Quran never says that it is a criterion over those scriptures. So that's the issue we see.
Okay. But hold on. It says as a guide to the people. Hold on. Return the verse real quick.
Yeah, you got it.
As a guide, previously as a guide for people. That means, notice the word previously. Right? من قبل هدى للناس. Which means it must be something before the Quran, or not before, at the time of the Quran, but before it. So before Muhammad, at the time of Jesus, Moses, those people. So as far as I can see, this has to be in the context of those people.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem. It's ambiguous here. It does not say, obviously in this verse, it doesn't say like they were previously and they're no longer supposed to be used. According to the prior verse, it seems to say like, yeah, they're confirming it's still supposed to be used. Because if we go to this verse right here, it says, he has revealed to you a prophet, the book and truth, confirming what came before it. It doesn't say like correcting, doesn't say giving something new or like fixing errors. It says quite frankly that they're supposed to be saying the same thing. So it's not this idea that it's supposed to be correcting. It's supposed to be confirming, and correcting and confirming are opposites. So this wouldn't really support your reading of what you see in Surah 3:4, that they're like previous guides and now the Quran is the new guide. It seems to think they're all just good guides because it's confirming, hey, we're preaching the same thing. The Torah is a guide. The Gospel is a guide. Now the Quran is also a guide. It's confirming what's there.
Okay, let me flip the script on you. Basically, you're saying that since the Quran is in 3:3, are you okay, Michael? In 3:3, it says it confirms previous scripture, right? So that goes against my reading.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to look at 350, you would notice that Jesus confirms the Torah. By the way, Jesus never knew if the Torah was corrupted or not. He confirms it, but abrogates laws that contradict the Injil he had with him.
Yeah, so 350. So let's read it for the audience. So this is Jesus speaking in the Quran. And I will confirm the Torah revealed before him and legalize some things of what has been forbidden to you. I have come to you with a sign from your Lord. So be mindful of Allah and obey him. I mean, this is just abrogation. This is in the Quran. If abrogating means that prior things have been corrupted, so they need to be abrogated, then the Quran is filled with corruption, because what's being abrogated, there's abrogations all over the Quran. That would mean whatever's being abrogated has been corrupted, if you follow that same logic.
Okay, let me explain my position. Basically, as I've said, Jesus never knew if the Torah was corrupted or not, so he abrogated the laws that disagree with him, right? The ironic part is Muhammad knew the gospel and Torah was corrupted. How? Open up Bukhari 7632.
Bukhari, what was that again?
7632.
Okay, I'll get that up here. 7362.
7632.
7632. Sorry about that. Let's get this up here. Okay. All right. Let me put this up here. Okay. The people of the book used to read the Torah in Hebrew and then explain it in Arabic to the Muslims. Allah's messenger said to the Muslims, do not believe the people of the book nor disbelieve them, but say we believe in Allah in whatever is revealed to us and whatever is revealed to you. Now, I just read that. I'm not sure how it supports you, but I'm going to let you speak. So explain to me what's going on here, and then I'm going to probably take issue based on what I just read. Let me make that a little bit bigger.
Okay. So what I'm trying to explain is that since in this hadith it says Muhammad to only believe in what was revealed to the prophets, he must have known that the people of the book tampered with their book, because then again it only says whatever is revealed to you. So it cannot be the books you have today. Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John weren't revealed to Jesus.
Okay.
They were things written after him.
Okay, so are you talking about the hadith or are you going back to the Quran now?
I'm talking about the hadith. He said that he most likely knew that the Bible and the Torah was corrupted. So therefore, the confirming in 3:3 and other verses is confirming the parts that agree and abrogating the parts that disagree and the corruptions.
So here's the problem I see. It doesn't say that. It says the people of the book used to read the Torah in Hebrew, then explain it in Arabic to Muslims. It doesn't say the book has been corrupted. It doesn't say that when they're reading it, they're hearing corruptions. It says they would read it in Hebrew, then explain it. So notice explaining would be like a tafsir, explaining it in Arabic to the Muslims. Then what Muhammad is saying, don't believe their explanations. That's what this seems to be saying. It doesn't say these books have been corrupted. So I don't see how this logically follows that they're saying they have been corrupted. And even if you're right, again, this just means the Quran is hopeless, or the Islam is hopelessly contradictory, because it's saying these scriptures have been corrupted, but then we go to Surah 547, Surah 568, 29, 46, and it says to believe in these books. So if these are the books that we're supposed to do, that we're believing in corrupted scriptures, and that's just the second horn of the dilemma, as I pointed out.
Oh, okay. You said that this would be a contradiction because of 547 and 543, right?
47, 568. Sijuwade brought up 568 specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I'm going to interject just really quickly here because I need to maybe audibly will help this. All right, we've had a lot of Muslims join so far through the link. For you guys that are joining, when you join, make sure you stay in the lobby, because if you join and leave 10 seconds later, we're not going to wrap up the conversation. And so stay in the lobby when you join, so that way we know when to start wrapping up our current conversation to move on to a new one. All right, guys?
Hey, Hamza, let me just say, you've been very kind and respectful. We really appreciate that. We're going to probably, we've been going for about 30 minutes. So let's go for maybe another 10 minutes, and then we'll do some super chats and take someone else. But I just want to say, we've had this is not what I expected, and you're definitely been very kind and respectful. I appreciate that.
Okay. So you said it's a contradiction because 547, 543, 568, so and so. But what you don't understand, Michael, is my point that 547, the gospel and the Torah and all of these verses refer to the things that agree. This wouldn't lead to a contradiction. I would have dodged the second horn if you had followed my logic. So since the Quran, if we followed my logic, and other verses saying it confirms, it tells to judge by, it means by the parts that agree, following my logic.
So then let me ask you this. I get your logic. I totally get your logic. Who is Allah talking to in Surah 568 though?
He's telling Muhammad, "Oh Muhammad, tell the people of the book."
Yeah, that's so he's not telling Muhammad to talk to the Muslims. Allah is talking through Muhammad to us Christians, correct?
Yeah. To judge by the Quran.
Well, no, hold on. He doesn't say that in Surah 568. He says, "Oh, people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord." If I go to you, Hamza, and say, "I have a message to you from God," believe in what has been revealed to you from your Lord. Are you going to go to the New Testament?
What was revealed to me from my Lord?
Yeah. If I let's say I claim to be a prophet and I say I have a message to Muslims from God, believe in what has been revealed to you from your Lord. Are you going to go to the New Testament?
Well, no, because it wasn't revealed to us. The Injil was revealed to the Israelites.
Well, what? Well, that's right. You're not. Wait.
World.
Well, hold on. Hold on. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm agreeing with you. Why, if Allah is talking to us, why would we go to the Quran when we would say that's not been revealed to us? Allah doesn't say go to the Quran. He says go to what has been revealed to you. He doesn't say this to Muslims. He says to Christians. And like you just said, if a prophet came to you and said, believe in what has been revealed to you, you're going to go to the Quran. You're going to include the Hadith in that. Why, as we as Christians, should we go to the Quran when we already believe that that's not been revealed to us? What's been revealed to us is the New Testament. That's where we would go. Isn't that where we would not go?
Simple. We believe the Quran is for the whole world. It's for you. It's for me. It's for the Jews. It's for the Buddhists, Japanese, Russian.
I agree. I agree. You believe that as a Muslim, but Allah is talking to Christians in Surah 568. What do we believe is revealed to us from our Lord?
Can I also jump in as well, if possible? Sorry, say your point first, and then I'll come after you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mike, what has been revealed to you from your Lord? Your Lord, according to the Quran, is who? Allah, right?
No. According, Allah does not say. So if you're going to include, like, Surah 29:46, it'd be the same God as what Christians believe in. So Allah is just saying, yeah, I'm basically the same God you believe in, but we would say that's the Trinity, and that's the Islamic dilemma right there. And we're seeing these blatant contradictions.
Really quick,
we
Josh,
don't.
You wanted to interject?
Yeah. So I just want to add another sort of line of argument to this. So if you actually go down to 569, this has been a very important verse in like contemporary Islamic scholarship, specifically Western scholarship, where it says, indeed the believers, so this is 569, indeed the believers, Jews, Sabians, and Christians, whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good, there'll be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. Now, contemporary scholarship, so people like a very important scholar called Fred Donner. So if you haven't heard of him, Hamza, I will say go and look him up. He's very respected in Western scholarship. So you have people like Fred Donner, people like Stephen Shoemaker, who have been making an argument that the community that Muhammad had established at this time didn't just include what you call today Muslims. It included Christians, Jews, and also these other people called Sabians. And so they made up this specific community called the Believers Community. And so within that community, there were the upholding of the previous revelations that Mike was alluding to. And how you can see this is because Allah doesn't just bring the sort of different communities under one branch, but he establishes sort of different sects within this this specific promise. So he says the believers, and the believers were those who were following the Quranic revelation. But then he also adds to that, he says, indeed the believers, so that's those following the Quranic revelation, the Jews, Sabians, and Christians. Now, what was the thing that defined each of those groups? It was the revelations that they affirmed. And so what I'm trying to say to you, just sort of building on Mike was saying, is that the scriptures were still alive during that period. The revelations weren't sort of thrown off to the side, but they were still operative for Christians, for Jews, and then for those who were called the believers, who are now what we would call the Muslims. So all of those scriptures were still existing and were still adhered to during the time of Muhammad, even though, as you will argue now, for the Christian scriptures and for the Jewish scriptures, they were corrupted.
Sorry, guys. I think I have to leave.
Okay. Oh yeah. Hey man, real quick. If you make me want to do more of these. This was really very educational. You're very respectful.
But to answer you quickly, right? The Jews, the Sabians, as I pointed out, following my logic, refers to the things that agree with the Quran, right? Therefore, the Christians are the people of the gospel, right? The Jews are the people of the Torah, and the Sabians are the people of whatever the prophet was said to them.
Yeah.
So That's kind of what my line of reasoning is coming. I'm going to come next live stream and, talk to you guys more about this. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Hamza, I'm going to actually be in Vegas next week on Avery's live stream. I think it's going to be on a Thursday. Why don't you come to that? It's going to be God Logic. So jump on that. I'm going to be in Vegas with him. We're going to do a stream.
Right.
So check that out. Well, maybe we'll come continue on his stream.
See you later.
Cool.
Goodbye.
Cool. All right. Well, that was pretty cool. We're gonna so we got another Muslim waiting in here. Just so hang tight in there. We see you in there, bro. We're gonna do a couple super chats and then we'll bring you in. But just to talk about what he was saying. I mean, what here's what we kind of got so far. We should not join a religion that has corrupted scriptures. But then he has to admit, okay, well, Islam does have corrupted scriptures, and then it then led us right into the Islamic dilemma, and that, of course, leads to all sorts of these different problems, as we pointed out. Because again, when I read Surah 568, it's telling Christians, it's kind of putting Christians in the judgment seat. We get to judge. We're supposed to stand on the scriptures on what has been revealed to us from our Lord. Our Lord is the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we're going to go, okay, well, that's the Old and New Testament. That's what we're going to use. It doesn't say, oh, people of the book, believe in what has been revealed to you from your Lord as long as it agrees with the Quran. Like, that would change everything. It doesn't say that, though. And if he's right that, like, earlier places, it's talking about, like, that hadith he brought up. If that actually means what he thought it does, that our scriptures have been corrupted, it just means we have now the contradiction in Islam, because Allah is telling us to judge by these scriptures. But Muhammad says, and apparently Sahih al-Bukhari, which I don't agree with, but if he was right, that those scriptures have been corrupted, now we've got a problem. And that's just, as I pointed out, and as Thanos pointed out, that's just the second horn of the dilemma. So.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? So that's what I was trying to just say at the end. If you look at 569, which is just literally after what you were just speaking about, it actually tells you criteria for those who truly believe in God. Because it says, I'll just read it again. Indeed, the believers, Jews, Sabians, and Christians, whoever truly believes in the last day and does good. And so people like Fred Donner and others have said, actually, to be part of the community that Muhammad established as a Christian, all you had to hold to was that there is a God, whatever that God is revealed himself to be, like that there is a last day, there's a judgment, and that you do good. So he never added, oh, you also have to believe things that are in line with the Quranic revelation. So what I'm trying to say to you is that he's adding criteria for what Christians had to sort of adhere to at the time of Muhammad, which is actually not in the Quranic text. And even if you go to the Hadith, again, a Muslim is going to want, they have to be, if I remember something that William Lane Craig used to say about this taxi cab fallacy, where, in the cosmological argument, you sort of jump out where you don't want it to take you before you don't want it to take you somewhere. And this sort of happens with history, with sort of Muslims. They will utilize the best scholarship as such to sort of refute the reliability of the scriptures, or they'll go to the best scholarship to refute the sort of the veracity of the resurrection. But then when you go and say, actually, let's go and look at the contemporary historical scholarship on, let's say, things to do with the Quran or the Hadith, they'll say, no, we're not going to go down that route with you. And that's sort of the taxi cab fallacy. And so what I'm trying to say here is, actually, if you're going to use a Hadith in this type of conversation, that's not something which is, I would recommend, given that contemporary scholarship would say that Hadith, for example, that was quoted by Hamza, was something which was written definitely way past Muhammad. And so that's why it will obviously have that, because at the time when the Hadiths were written, there were disagreements between Christians and Muslims. So obviously that they're going to write Hadith that supported that narrative that the Christian scriptures were corrupted. But actually, if you go to the Quran, it never says that. It never says that at all, and actually just says a very loose criteria that you should follow your religion. And if you want to be part of Muhammad's community, you just have to believe in God, the last day, and do good. And that's it. Yeah. But then you have the problem of also having to follow the revelations, which are supposedly being corrupted, which leads to your problem.
Yeah, I'm not, just so everyone knows, I'm not sure why my camera is so weird right now. I'm going to try to fix it, but I'm going to do a couple super chats here. Then we'll let another Muslim in here to talk. And now that you've kind of seen how this kind of rolls, Dr. Sijuwade, you can ask that question you wanted to ask in a minute.
Yeah, that's
so.
Right.
I'm going to prioritize super chats to give more, because I think that's fair. Hey, IP, love your content for years now, and you've helped me with my faith in some doubting times. I have to disagree with you when you say Muhammad isn't in the Bible, though we clearly see him mentioned in Matthew 7:15. Powerful stuff there. Yes. Since Jesus is the only way, what he sees, Okay, this is grammatically all over the. Since Jesus only does what he sees the Father doing. Okay, my mistake. It is fair to say Jesus has all the omnis and is God only per the Father. I believe there's a question for you. This is your specialty, Dr. Sijuwade.
So let me just read that again. So since Jesus only does what he sees the Father doing, is it fair to say that Jesus has all the omnis and is God only per the Father? I mean, that is not a problem in that Orthodox Christianity will say that we affirm that Jesus is divine because he's eternally begotten by the Father. And so the Father eternally communicates all of his divinity to the Son. And so he has his divinity in virtue of the Father. So that's not a problem at all. We don't believe that the Son has his divinity independent of the Father. He has it because the Father has eternally generated him and has bestowed eternally the divinity upon him.
Any recommendations for a degree such as theology or Christian history and school online to pursue just to become more knowledgeable?
Is this for myself? If so, I wouldn't say I have many recommendations. It depends if you want to have, let's say, more of a standard degree like a bachelor's, or if you're going for a master's. If you're going down that route, the previous institution that I used to work for, London School of Theology, they have a very good theology faculty, very good church history faculty as well, and they do online stuff. So do look up London School of Theology, and if you're looking to go for more rigorous sort of things like bachelor's or master's, they do have great programs.
All right, one more super chat, then we'll let the next Muslim in. Dr. Sijuwade, all your Catholic brothers are praying for your reversion. I hope you come back to the truth. Yeah, Dr. Sijuwade, you're a Christian. Why are you not converting to Christian? You're going to a Christian church. They want you to go to a Christian church. So go to a Christian church instead of the Christian church you're going to as a Christian.
Exactly, man. I don't know what's going on here.
All right, let's get to the next Muslim in here. Welcome, Gens.
Gens, Muslim and Gen Z.
Gen Z. Okay, sorry about that.
Hello, Michael. Let me just say it's good to finally meet you. And I used to watch your videos on Instagram, and I do just obviously disagree with you on Islam. I do agree with you, like when you criticize atheism, and you do make some pretty good points there. So yeah, I'm ready to have a very you could say respectful discussion. I don't want to argue with you. I just want to have a discussion. I just want to understand each other's perspective. And let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's go for it. Dr. Sijuwade is here. There's a topic he wanted to get into, so I was going to let him ask a question specifically, and then we'll all talk. So let's do that, and then after he asks his question, you go through that, then you can ask me a question.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks. Great to meet you. So my question is: have you heard of the Pan-Abrahamic problem?
Well, I know that there's 3 Abrahamic religions, obviously.
Yeah, but there's a specific problem called the Pan-Abrahamic problem, and I'll unpack that a little bit more as we sort of go through the questioning. But I'll ask you just another question. So let's say that you had, let's say that you were part of a community, let's say a Christian, and let's say that we're following a revelation, and we're following a person who isn't actually Jesus. Would you still stay within that religion, or would you try and find the real Jesus?
Well, I would say that Jesus was given the original Injil, but over time, like there have been, different versions of the Bible, and many different groups have tried. They say that they have like their own version of him, such as Mormonism, and they see something completely different about him. But Islam affirms that Jesus is, well, he has elevated status as a prophet. He is a servant of God, similar to like Moses and all these other people. So
yeah. So I mean, my question was a little bit different. So I'll just make it a little bit more clear and simpler. So let's say that I am following a specific religion. Let's not talk about Christianity now, but I'm following a specific religion, and I find out that actually the religion that I believe that I was following isn't actually that religion. I've been following a different one. What would I do in that situation, or what would you do in that situation?
Well, I think so I'm actually a convert to Islam, and so I was brought up in a religious Christian family, and so I was always taught that Jesus was the Son, and that he came to the world and in the form of a person. But again, we don't have any surviving versions of the Injil today, and there have been.
1 second, sorry to interrupt you. No, I just don't, because I know we don't have a lot of time. That's not actually my question. My question is just stay at the general level with my example. If you're part of a religion, so leave Christianity out of the picture, leave Islam out of the picture just for now. if you're part of a religion and you're brought up in this religion, you were praying, you were following it, whatever the religion is, but then you found out one day that actually this wasn't the religion that you thought you were following. You were actually, the religion that you thought that you were following doesn't exist anymore. What would you do?
Oh boy,
would you give up that religion that you were holding to?
Well, I'd probably do some studying. And so I think the reason why I was bringing up my conversion was it was actually an analogy in response to that question. So again, I was brought up in a practicing Christian family. And again, I was always taught the Trinity and, that he was the Son. And so is that Jesus originally preached absolute monotheism, but it's certainly possible that his works got lost in corruption as time advanced, which is why there's the RSV, the New Catholic Bible. And I guess the Quran sort of acts as the reformer to that, and as well as confirms the works of all the other prophets, and says they are all preaching monotheism, Jesus included. So
yeah. So what I'm getting from what you're saying is that you left Christianity because you weren't really following the real Jesus.
No.
Yeah.
Well, again, we don't have any surviving versions of the original Injil given to Jesus, and that. Also, not to mention the names Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were only given
Okay, one second. I know. Sorry for interrupting you. I just don't want us to put too much stuff in there when we're actually trying to just be led down a certain path. So just to understand what you're saying, you said you were giving an analogy to answer my question.
Yes.
I was saying, for example, if I was following a religion that I actually thought was a certain way, and then all of a sudden I discover actually that person that I'm following is not that person, it's someone else. I'm following a different religion than what I actually believed. I would stop holding to that religion. And so I can see in sort of your conversion, you're saying that you saw that with Christianity, you thought that Jesus preached the Trinity, you thought you believed this, but then you found out that actually he didn't. And so then you adopted another faith. Now, what I want to say to you is you actually have this problem as a Muslim, because the pan-Abrahamic problem, which I brought up at the beginning, is a problem which you really need to think about. And a lot of Muslims don't know about it, but it's something which, through my own writing, I've tried to sort of expose. And so just in a very piecemeal fashion, the pan-Abrahamic problem says that Prophet Muhammad, when he was preaching the religion of Islam, which started from 570 up until 630 at his death, he actually was not preaching Islam as you understood it today. He was preaching an ecumenical form of Islam, where he was allowing Christians, Jews, and his followers, which we call Muslims, to all come under this one umbrella. And how we see this in the Quran is, as what we were saying with the previous caller, in chapter 5, Allah actually promises salvation, not just to Muslims, but he promises to those who are Jews, to the Sabians, and also to the Christians.
Okay, I would like to just go ahead and address some of the things you said there. So what I'm hearing about Surah 569, where the Christians, the Jews, the Sabians, is actually talking about people who lived prior to the Prophet Muhammad. And I was also going to say that people were called Muslim not by by we see what today, but it just means a submitter to God. And so the reason why people say Moses and Jesus were all Muslims was that they just believed in God and they trusted in him and put their faith in him. So that's a hell of a lot different than the Islam that the version of Islam believed today that Muhammad gave. And so
thank you for that. So, well, if you actually look at 568 and then you go to 569, it doesn't actually seem that he's addressing or he's speaking about those who were living before Muhammad. He's actually Muhammad is speaking. So I'll read 568 and then go to 569.
I already know the verse, so
but I'll just read it for the audience. So, say, O Prophet, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the Gospel, and what has been revealed to you. Okay, so I'll just leave it at there, and then it goes down into 569. Indeed, the believers, Jews, Sabians, and Christians, whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good, there will be no fear for them, nor would they grieve. So what we can see here is that it's a command that Muhammad is given to speak to those who are part of his community about, firstly, following the specific revelation, and then secondly, salvation being given to those who are part of the community, the believers, the Sabians, the Jews, and the Christians. Now, what I'm trying to say to you with the problem I'm trying to present to you is that the Islam that you are holding today is an exclusivist religion. Islam says that only if you follow the Quran, and this is the Islam of today, only if you follow the Quran will you have salvation given to you. But Muhammad did not preach that message. Muhammad preached the message that if you believe in Allah, you believe in the last day, and you believe in and perform good works, you will have salvation given to you. And that's what 569 is saying. 569 is saying, indeed, the believers, according to scholarship, were those who were the pagans who then converted based off of the preaching of Muhammad. So they were called the believers. So you had those who were ex-pagans who now had become followers of Muhammad. They're called the believers. You then had Jews, you then had Sabians, and you then had Christians. And then it says the criteria for those who are truly his followers are those who believe in Allah, the last day, and do good. There will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. So what I'm trying to say to you is Muhammad preached an ecumenical movement, ecumenical religion, where Jews, Christians, Jews and Christians specifically were included within the community of the followers of Muhammad. But the religion that you hold today is an exclusivist religion. And so I'll just stop at that point for a second.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say the believer, what is commonly meant by believers in the Quran is the Muslims, because it says like those who believe and do good and give the zakat. It's talking specifically about people who are Muslim and who believe in the Shahada. That's what it's referring to.
Well, where does it say that in the Quran? Sorry.
Like Surah Al-Baqarah, it says like, and those who believe, it's somewhere in Surah Al-Baqarah. I'll find it for a minute there. Surah Al-Baqarah, let me find it. Come on. Oh, crud.
Why not? Well, you look for that. You found it? Okay.
Yeah. So it says, those who believe in the unseen and perform the prayers and give from what we have provided for them, and those who believe in what was revealed to you and what was revealed before you are certain of the hereafter, though these are upon guidance from their Lord. These are the successful.
Yeah, so that doesn't say the Muslim way of doing that. So Christians could have easily fulfilled that. Jews could have easily fulfilled what that is. So one thing you need to understand, in the Quran, believer is the term that's referred to those who follow Allah amongst the community of Muhammad. It's the predominant term that's used for those instead of Muslim. You hardly ever see Muslim being used. It just means, as you said, Semitic. So my whole point of what I'm trying to say is that you had Muhammad establish a community where Jews, Christians were following their religion, and they were able to have salvation given to them by Allah. That was something that you see throughout the Quran. But then your religion that you hold to today actually believes that no, you have to submit to Allah through the Quran. The Christian scriptures are not to be followed anymore, and salvation is only given to you if you become a Muslim. So the problem that you have, and I'm presenting to you as a philosophical problem, is that, and the way that you have to now sort of wrestle with this issue is that you can only say that your religion that you're following is the same as Muhammad's religion if you are also holding to the teachings that Muhammad upheld as well. So if Muhammad upheld the teaching that salvation is to be given to Jews, Christians, and all those who follow Muhammad, so long as they believe in those three criteria I spoke about, then you're going to have a problem, because your religion of today doesn't actually preach that anymore.
I just want to say, we also have Surah 262. Indeed, the believers, the Jews, Christians, and Sabians, whoever truly believes in Allah in the last day and does good, will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. So this is just adding to what we saw in Surah 569. I just wanted to add that in there.
Okay, yeah. So Surah 262 is not talking about the Haredi Jews and the Protestants of today. It's simply it's a reference to those who lived prior to the Prophet Muhammad, because also, not to mention that Islam upholds that the Jews were on the right path until their book got corrupted, and then the Christians were on the right path until they got corrupted. And so Muhammad sort of acts like the reformer. And so the moment you accept Muhammad as a prophet, as well as all the other prophets, you just turn into a Muslim.
But where does it say that in the Quran? Because I can understand you're saying this from what Islam teaches today, but from the actual recitation that Muhammad received from Angel Jibril, where does it say that? Like, actually, where is the evidence for that? Because we've already just given you some evidence here that actually salvation is possible for those who are not just following the Quranic revelation. So it seems to be that actually Muhammad didn't say what you were saying.
Well, Surah 37, 35, and 48, 29 talk about the Shahada.
Okay, now one thing, what was the Shahada during the time of Prophet Muhammad?
Well, obviously the Shahada simply means no other gods but God alone, and that Muhammad is his last prophet.
Okay, now I ask you, what evidence do we have that that's what the Shahada was? Firstly, in the Quranic text, and then secondly, in epigraphical things. Because what we do have, the evidence that we do have today, we have dating from certain rock inscriptions where we have the Shahada, but it was only singular. So it only said you should believe in you should believe in God, but it never added Prophet Muhammad. It wasn't until a later time, after there was now problems between Jews and Muslims, that then there was a second sentence that was added to the Shahada. So even if you say that, yes, you had to believe in the Shahada during the time of Prophet Muhammad was just the belief in one God, which a Jew, a Christian, and those who we call Muslims will all affirm happily.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do a gotcha sort of thing, so sorry if you're feeling like that. I know you came in and you have a very nice spirit as well. It's just that a lot of Muslims, they haven't thought about this sort of way of putting the argument forward. So I just wanted to sort of just see how you'll sort of respond to that. But I do really respect your mannerism with this.
Yeah, and just to be clear too, like, it's totally fine to just say, hey, I have to think about that.
Yeah. I think what I want to do is when I get off this live stream, what I'm going to do is what's the question? I could write down somewhere.
Could you, if you have time, I don't know if you're someone who likes reading a lot. I've got a paper, which I don't know if it could be sent to you or could be put somewhere, where I sort of go through this a little bit more. I don't know if you want to.
I can drop it in the private chat here.
Yeah. So maybe if you,
I can just link it in the actual live stream too.
But so our Muslim friend here, I want him to you just go to the private chat. It's right there. You click download. And there you go. And then he can grab that, drop it in the live as well.
And something. We could talk. So I think the next time you hold a live stream, I'd love to be there because I've already been on like 3 live streams myself, and I'm just looking for people to respectfully converse with. And again, I used to watch you on Instagram a lot, and I'm like, hey, this is good. I finally got to meet you, and you're not half as bad as I thought you were because you seem to come down harsh on various backgrounds. And
are you talking about me or Sijuwade?
You.
Okay. Well, here's the thing.
He's harsh on me too.
I'll just fully acknowledge that's like a character persona I'm giving off because, when you're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, I want to capture your attention. So if I come across a little grumpy, a little rude, you're more likely to watch those. But that's not how I am. That's just my TikTok persona. Because I want people to watch, and that actually gets. If I here's the thing. Let me just ask you this: if you're scrolling through and you come across my video and go, "Hey, how you doing? I'm a Christian. And I want to just talk to you." You're not. No. If I come across and I'm just like, "This is the dumbest thing I ever heard," now you're interested. So that's just part of what I do on there.
Okay, but Michael, my question now for you is: if you were shown compelling evidence that Islam really was from God, and then Muhammad was like the last prophet, and the Quran was his word, do you think you would convert?
That's an interesting question. It would depend on the type of evidence and what you're presenting, because here's where I'm coming from. I believe we have strong, sufficient evidence that Jesus did rise from the dead. So you would need to debunk that. And I guess you, as a Muslim, you believe Jesus wasn't even crucified, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you would need to debunk all of that, tear down my worldview, and then build up a Muslim one. If you were to go show some sort of evidence that like Islam is true, I'm going to go with what Dr. Sijuwade was just saying, that the earliest Muslims had a different belief than what you have. So maybe that was actually changed, added by hadith and sayings over time. So that would be my criterion for what's going on here. However, if you want to show me some evidence for Islam, I'm happy to listen to it and take into consideration.
And I assume you've you met with David Wood, and so he said that the very moment any Muslim, whether it be me, the weakest or the strongest, could show him an unequivocal, like verbatim statement in the Quran that says that the text of the Jews and the Christians is corrupt, he's ready to be Muslim.
Okay. Do you have a verse like that?
That's actually not what I want to talk about now. I actually wanted to comment on something else. I think maybe before we do that, possibly what I'll do is actually wanted to comment on what the other caller said. He was talking about, the concept of magic in Islam and it's true that there's a hadith that says that the Prophet Muhammad was protected by God from magic. So I actually go ahead and read it to you right now. It says, Aisha, what has happened to you? Do you feel jealous?
Can you give us real quick? Can you give us the hadith number so I can actually put it up?
Let me see. It's Sahih Muslim 2815.
28:15. Okay. Yeah, let me just go and read it. I'll just get it up for the audience sake.
Okay. Aisha, what has happened to you? Do you feel jealous? Thereupon she said, how can it be that a woman like me should not feel jealous in regards to a husband like you? Therefore, God's messenger said, it was your devil who had come to you. And she said, God's messenger, is there along with me a devil? He said, yes. I said, is there a devil attached to everyone? He said, yes. Aisha again said, God's messenger, is it with you? He said, yes, but my Lord has helped me against him, and as such, I am absolutely safe from his mischief.
Okay. So I'll be honest. Red flags are going up all over the place hearing Muhammad say, yes, everyone has a devil. That doesn't sound good to me on the surface.
Well, actually, this is simply talking about how everyone experiences like waswasa or intrusive thoughts every once in a while, but by turning to God, you can overcome it. And so, but it does, see, this is the big thing that I saw. There's this gentleman named Louis Leinhardt, and he debated a Muslim about demonic possession. And so he intentionally left out that last part. It talks explicitly about how God protected him from demonic possession, and he keeps him safe.
So here's my question to you. Okay, let's say I was a Satanist, and I mean like a real Satanist. I believed in Satan. Okay. And I said, and so you said, hey, man, I think you're possessed. I think that'd be a logical thing for you to say. Wouldn't you agree?
I suppose so.
So if I said, don't worry, Satan has protected me from demons possessing me, would you be like, okay, yeah, that sounds legit?
Well, that's actually a contradiction to me. You're saying that being a Satanist gets you protected, but the Hadith says, but my Lord has helped me against him, and as such, I'm safe from his mischief.
That's what I'm getting at. I get what you're saying, but I'm saying like just on the surface, if we just leave Islam out of it, just because I say I'm protected, and I'm not saying like Satan's going to possess, I'm saying Satan versus his demons. Satan is going, if I was a Satanist and I said, I believe in Satan, he's going to protect me from his demons possessing me. He's not going to let that happen. Do you think that I have good ground to stand on for believing that?
Wait. Hold on. What was your question again?
So like, let's just say I was a Satanist and I said, hey, don't worry, bro. I talked to Satan. He said he's not going to let any of his minions possess me. Do you think, would you believe me on that? Or would you go, I don't know about that?
Well, throughout the Bible and the Quran, he's described as the great deceiver. So you should probably reevaluate your own position in that case.
You don't think that in the Quran, Allah is called the best of deceivers?
Well, see what that verse. See, this is another big thing that critics of Islam like to bring up. Is that they say that, but it's talking about how apparently the disbelievers planned against his prophet, but they were so boastful and full of themselves. But God, being all powerful and all knowing, was able to overpower them and was able to punish them for their scheming. So,
and how did he do that?
Well, I believe it talks about how the Jews believed that they successfully executed Jesus, but they really didn't, and he was already raised up to heaven, and so they believe, like we proved that he's false, but God.
Well, that's Surah 4. I'm talking about what's in Surah 3, I believe, that Allah is the best of deceivers. Surah 3:54 specifically, and you're going to Surah 4 157.
Oh, okay.
So This specifically, I mean, the Arabic word means to like deceive, delude, cheat, double cross, and it says Allah is the best of deceivers. Now, in translations, they translated that as planner, and so it just comes across as a little odd that they would do that because the word means to deceive. And I've talked to Arabic speakers, and they would say, yeah, that means deceive.
Well, actually, the meaning of the attribute makr, it just simply means that God countered the evil plots of the kafir with his own superior plans, given again that God's all-knowing and all-powerful. So that's what that's getting at there. And makr, just they've translated that to mean many different things, such as plotting, countering, and of course, scheming. But it doesn't always have to be an evil, negative thing.
Okay, but in the context, though, it's saying that these people. Let me just bring it up here so we can read this together, because I think it's important we actually look at this. So let me just pull up the Quran. I will jump over to that one from what I was doing. So Surah 3:54. Now again, I don't think it's translated differently, But what I want to do is I want to look at the context. So they prayed to Allah, our Lord, we believe in your revelations and follow your message, so count among those who bear witness. And the disbelievers made a plan against Jesus, but Allah also planned. So notice the contrast. So they schemed, but Allah also schemed. They deceived, and Allah also deceived is the contrast that's going on. So the definition here, we can pull it up. It means, so for example, let me see if I can put this on the screen. I just want to get this up here, because I think it's also important that we actually look at this as well. So I'm going to take this down. I'm going to put this up as well. So here we go. From the word, it means cunning, craftiness, sly, willing, double dealing, deception, trickery, sly, crafty. See the issue here.
Yeah, and also Ibn Kathir, one of the most respected Sunni Muslim explainers of the Quran, he says that the plotting is simply it's a reference to the schemes that the Kafir had against Prophet Jesus. And yes, this is from Surah 354, but it says that God's plan thwarted them by taking Jesus up into heaven and making them look like fools, essentially.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing that at all. It's just, let's go back to the original point, though. You were saying that, Allah has promised in that hadith that he is going to keep Muhammad safe from demonic aspects, demonic activity. But Allah says he is the best of deceivers. So why should we trust him on this issue when he's telling us he will deceive to assure, his plans go through? In that context. So this raises a whole ton of red flags. Why should we trust Allah in this regard?
But yeah, let's not forget that there's two different. So humans' deception, lying, is often selfish schemes which intend to harm and mislead people. But God's planning, as seen in the Quran. So the Quran says that God is just, and he's the master of everything, and it was actually intended to keep truth safe as opposed to tarnished. And so, yeah, again, as I said already, that verse is talking about how God punished the Kafir in their boastful and full of themselves plan against their prophets. And so God's actually keeping the truth safe in that regard. And that mock here in that sense does not ruin God's name in Islam at all.
Can I say something just quickly? So just from a philosophical point of view, deception is actually a morally bad action unless it is the only option that you have. So, for example, someone comes to my door and says to me, the famous one, am I hiding, Jews or whoever in the house? And, obviously I'll say no to the Nazis because that's the only option that I have, deception, to save those people's lives. But generally, deception is seen to be a morally bad action only if it is saving a life, and only if it is the only option that you can utilize. Now, God, who's omnipotent, he doesn't have those limitations. So why would he ever use deception?
Well, I think that's actually a pretty good point that you brought up. And so, again, I talked about the difference between, human lying and how it always results in, in people, getting hurt. But again, in God's schemes, as seen as Surah 354 was actually, again, meant to keep the prophets safe as opposed to harmed. And so it's morally opposite to human deception. So an example could be I throw a net to catch a bird secretly, which would harm them. But let's say God could adjust the wind easily to move the bird out of the way and keep him safe, and that's protection. So likewise, God's planning in Surah 354, it was an act of protection of the prophet Jesus to keep him safe from being tarnished or harmed.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that God wouldn't need to use that scheme because it can lead to a perception of deception. So even if let's say God isn't actually directly deceiving, but through his action, it can lead to those who are watching or reading the text or watching the event to actually be deceived, because those people were being deceived by God's action. But then deception is, as I was saying to you, direct or indirect deception as a consequence is morally bad only if you have an option not to do it and if you're not saving a life. Now, God is omnipotent, so he'll never have to use that. He could easily just save Jesus without any type of deception. He could have just taken Jesus up without any sort of deception at all in that specific verse about Jesus. So why would he use that method, which is normally seen to be a morally bad action?
And this is I'm great you brought this up. This is a point I wanted to get to, because according to Islam, Allah is responsible for one of the greatest deceptions, making people believe Jesus was crucified, creating the largest competitor to Islam, the world's largest religion. This just seems incredibly odd. Why would Allah deceive the entire world, including the disciples, to believe that Jesus really was crucified? And so why should we trust Allah when he says, no, I'll keep you safe from bewitchment? Why should we trust him on anything when he says he's the best of deceivers? When he created the greatest deception ever, which is that of Christianity, and that based on Jesus' death and resurrection.
Well, even some of the earliest sources, you could say, had doubts about the crucifixion, and so, that's something to say in regards to that, and also,
I'll definitely say the earliest sources, we have multiple attestation about the crucifixion and the disciples believing that Jesus was crucified. I would just say from the early sources that we do have. And if we're using a historical critical method, that would be just going with the Gospels. And we don't really have anything in the Gospels of there being a doubt amongst the core disciples about Jesus being crucified.
And not to mention, there are verses like when Jesus was praying, he was said, "Let this cup pass from me." And so, he was praying actually to be saved, not to be killed. And so, what the heck? What do you need to pray to be saved for? And also, Jesus' purpose was to preach absolute monotheism to the people. And let's not forget that. Well, let's not forget that each and every prophet, Muhammad, Jesus, and various others had to go through their own trials and tribulations. But the reason why the Jews wanted to execute him was they didn't believe him. They thought he was a flat out liar, and so they wanted to prove it to everybody. But I guess him being saved directly and being taken into heaven, and instead the person be only looking like Jesus, was an act to punish them for, I guess, their foolishness and their treachery. So
can I raise a question or an objection to what you said? You're saying Jesus' main message was about absolute monotheism.
It was.
You have to remember that Jesus' audience were Jews who would have already held to absolute monotheism. So it must have been something over and above that message. He wasn't speaking to pagans. Jesus was speaking to Jews.
I mean,
so why would he be also more specifically the Pharisaic Jews?
Yes.
Well,
it's very strict
ones we're looking at here.
Well, let's not forget that it was not just Jews who were living in that area Jesus lived. There are various other religions, I believe, existed there too. So
So I mean, what I'm trying to question is that actually I do believe that Jesus' main message was about the kingdom of God being inaugurated, and that was through his life, death, and resurrection. And so the completion of this inauguration was through his death. That's why he went to the cross, so that the kingdom will be fully inaugurated. What I'm trying to question is, yes, monotheism was part of that message. It was part of the message of the kingdom of God, but there was a message that was more to be said above that, which was also including his death and then his resurrection.
I'll let you respond, then I have a question, if that's okay.
Actually, you know what? I think I'll maybe think about that a little bit some more when I got the stream. You can go ahead and ask me a question, okay. Michael.
So, going back to the original point, I've been thinking about this. So you're saying Allah would not have allowed Muhammad to ever be bewitched or anything like that?
Well, actually, it is certainly true that God could essentially keep anyone safe, but the reason why he protected him from that was to sort of validate his status as a prophet. And I mean, if any, for example, let's say there's a cup that was poisoned, and only like the king could neutralize the poison, then that is a sign that I'm a member of some type of authority, or I'm his, his ambassador. Yeah, but if anybody else does, it doesn't really mean anything.
If Allah allowed Muhammad to be bewitched, do you think that'd be a problem?
I would say so, yeah. But again, the Hadith does say that he was protected from that, as I showed you already.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The Hadith does say that. However, there is another Hadith that I remembered. Once the Prophet was bewitched, so that he began to imagine that he had done a thing which, in fact, he had not done. Sahih al-Bukhari 3175. So here it says that one Hadith said Allah is going to protect him from being bewitched, but here he was bewitched. So we got a problem.
So it's 3175, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it on the screen if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I do believe I can see it there. Yeah. Yeah, and so like the effects of magic they're simply pertaining to worldly matters, and they were not related to his prophetic mission. And Islamic scholars will tell you that what he went through was a test, and not it doesn't ruin his status as a prophet. It was actually a sign to demonstrate how he was patient and endurant, because all throughout Islam you will see that the Prophet Muhammad, even in his darkest moments, he held true to God, and he stayed steadfast, and he never let his darkest moments ruin him. And in fact, he actually came up stronger because of that.
So, but let's just recap a little bit here. Let's go through what we got here. So we got a hadith saying he's going to be protected from that. We got the Quran saying he's the best of deceivers, and now we also have hadith saying that he actually was bewitched. I mean, these look like contradictions, but also serious problems. I mean, like, so what we have is he's being told, no, Allah is going to protect me from ever being bewitched, but then he is bewitched. Allah is also the best of deceivers. You kind of see the problems that we're starting to see here. Why should we trust Allah when Muhammad says he's going to be protected, he's not protected, and then Allah is saying, and I'll deceive to make sure my plans go through? These all seem like some pretty serious problems. I don't know if I could ever trust Allah based on just this alone, but I even have more problems here related to this.
Okay, and so and something else. So again, I think we already talked about this like many times over, and so I talked to you about how there's a difference between how humans lie and how it leads to moral decay and immorality, but God's planning is essentially a counter to evil, and it actually is said to protect the prophets. But again, in that Sahih Muslim hadith, it does say that my Lord has helped me against him, and is kept safe from his mischief, and how everybody experiences waswasa and intrusive thoughts every once in a while. And so these were only they were temporary trials, which in no way were meant to ruin his status as a prophet, because let's not forget that the Prophet Muhammad was only a human, and he lived a human life just like you and me, but was I got you.
But how do you know that his prophetic message was protected? It's Islam tells you that, so it's just circular. We know that Islam is true, therefore his message has to be protected. It's just a circular. And what we're trying to say is, in Islam, there are red flags. There are indications that no, he was bewitched. He has been deceived. And in fact, in Surah 8, Allah does deceive Muhammad for his own protection, but still does deceive him.
Well, again, I think that I myself have faced these problems about Islam before, but I think you have to be able to understand them in a certain context and to dig deep into it. Because again, I did tell you about how there's this gentleman named Louis Lionheart he's been an aggressive critic of Islam for a long time, and so he intentionally left out that my Lord has helped me against him, and I am safe from his mischief, on purpose to make it seem like it's bad. But you have to read it in full and be like, oh, okay, I get what this is saying. So this is saying that yes, Muhammad was a human, but he might be tested every once in a while, just like you and me, but he is not capable of, I guess, of being long-term permanently ruined by magic. And again, this was only a temporary thing in Bukhari.
I have one question about how do you know that though? How do you know he's protected and you can trust his prophetic message?
Well, also let's not forget that Sahih means it's authentic, and so we had to go through a long chain, I guess, of narration.
I get that, but how do you know he was protected and you can trust his message?
Well,
listen, bro, you're super nice and respectful. If you just want to say, I want to think more about that,
yeah,
I think respect you.
Yeah, I think I'll do some more thinking on that too. And
Can I just raise one thing, which is a little bit more the meta level about the analysis. So, I'll just ask you a question about him being protected from black magic. Is that found in the Quran or just in the Hadith?
Well, since I'm not I haven't read the full Quran in depth. I'm not a hafiz, but. Yes. But also the Quran does say that you should also follow the Prophet Muhammad, and people have interpreted that as don't be a Quranist. You also have to take what was in in the hadith as his word indirectly.
Yeah, I do agree with you in that. Yeah, that's sort of the traditional position. But what I'm trying to just get at is just again, like, as you probably would have an attitude with a Christian who just said, I'm going to, let's say, for example, in John 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it says later that the Word became flesh. Now, a Christian could just easily say to a Muslim, oh, look, the Bible teaches that Jesus was God. He was divine, and it's very clear. Now, a Muslim will normally say, well, are you going to trust the Gospel of John? Do you really know? Contemporary scholarship says it's anonymous. Or they'll say, oh, the Gospel of John was late. So they'll try and say that they'll put questions about the reliability of it. Now, what I'm trying to say to you now is, majority of scholarship will say the hadith are unreliable. So if we're going to judge something, you need to judge it first by the Quran instead of the hadith. So I'll just quote for you, for example, just from some scholarship. So just not to see that I'm just making stuff up. So for example, a very respected scholar, it's called Sean Anthony. He says, scholars must also approach this material, talking about the hadith, with skeptical caution rather than optimistic trust. We have another person, Fred Donner, who I spoke about before. He says, only a basic skeleton of the course of the historical events from the hadith can be accepted. We then have another, just one more I'll state here, from another important scholar called Joshua Little, who was studying at Oxford. He said the last 2 centuries of critical scholarship on the Islamic origins has exposed a legion of problems with the Islamic literary sources. There are, and above all, with the hadith corpus. So the majority of scholars who actually study, who are not sort of, they don't have the Islamic lens on, they're not Muslims, they look at the hadith and they see the hadith actually has a myriad of contradictions and they're not a reliable text. So if you're going to sort of build this case from the hadith, you're going to have a bit of a problem there from sort of being on quick historical sand. But then if you go with the Quran is very clear about Muhammad being the best of deceivers. And so you can't sort of counterweight that then with the hadith, because the hadith are generally in scholarship not taken to be reliable.
I got a question for you. We're going to, Dr. Sijuwade's got to go soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go a little bit longer. I can go a little bit
sure.
longer.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. But you guys can keep talking then, and then we'll go to super chats. But if we do this again in like 2 or 3 weeks, would you come back? Because this has been a great conversation.
I would love to.
This was really fun.
I've
not even talking. I'm having a blast.
Hey, Michael, I was gonna say you're not as bad as I thought you were. I mean, like, I would love to be on another one of your streams, and I'd be more than happy to study some more about the stuff you gave me, and even elaborate some more on my points and see how I can expand them to make them better and better sounding. And also, when are you doing a live stream next? Like, when are you doing a next call-in?
It's the 4th. We could possibly do one in like 2 weeks, perhaps. So it'd be the 18th. I can't do the following week because I'm going to be getting eye surgery, and so I'm literally going to be blind all day.
Oh man!
But
I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Purdue that day, but
he doesn't need to be here. He sucks anyway. But I could always just get another friend on to be with me to just sort of help. Or Dr. Sijuwade could come back in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Michael, but would you say that you respect like my right to freedom of religion and my freedom to be Muslim? I guess.
Okay. Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, and hey, and I respect your right to be Christian too. So hey, it was really nice to finally meet you, Michael. Sending you a virtual fist bump right there. And yeah, and maybe see you guys future stream.
Sounds good.
Yeah. We'll be. I honestly mean we'll be praying for you. Please look up some of the stuff we thought. And yeah, we'd like you to come back and keep talking with you in the future.
For you guys too.
Yeah.
Good. That's always good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. You guys have a good day now.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
You too.
All right, let's get to some super chats here. When do you need to take off, Dr. Sijuwade?
I can probably do another 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to just have a conversation with someone? Then we'll do super
I'm up
chats
for whatever is good for you guys. Don't worry.
Let's
Actually, no, never mind. I'll ask later, Josh.
I'll
remember the question.
Let's bring in the next guy in here, and then we'll have a conversation with him for like a good 20 minutes, and then you got to take off, and then we'll do super chats.
Yeah.
Cool. So Mohammed, do you hear us?
Sir, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing today? Can you hear us?
We were hearing you before, but now we can't hear you.
Yeah, if you're saying anything, we heard you for a second, and then you sort of dropped out there.
Okay, well, maybe while he's trying to figure out his mic stuff, maybe.
Wait,
Then
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, we can hear you. There you go.
All right, how you guys doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. What do you think about Dr. Sijuwade's Pan-Abraham problem that he was talking about earlier?
I don't think I was listening. I was only listening right now with the deceiving conversation, and I would like to talk about that if that's fine.
Yeah, I guess so. We can continue that. So what's on your mind about that?
Yeah, so Dr. Sijuwade said that deception is objectively or generally immoral, only, but with exception of, for example, when you need to save a life or something like that, correct?
Well, I was saying if it's the only or it's the last option that you have. So, for example, if I can save a life without having to deceive, then I wouldn't see that deception is the option that you should take.
Okay, and then you said that God is not limited by this, therefore it shouldn't apply to him.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that God is not limited in his actions. So that means that he will never have a point where he can only save a life through one option, which would be deception. But we can be limited in that sort of sense.
So you don't think God can deceive at all?
No, I didn't necessarily say that. I just said that he wouldn't exercise his power in that way.
Okay, and would you say if he exercised his power with deceiving, would you consider that immoral?
It depends really the circumstance, but what are you trying to get at? Because I think you're leading to a conclusion. Sorry, the reason I'm saying that is just because we don't have a lot of time.
Because you guys seem to have a problem with Allah making it seem like Jesus was crucified, which is passive deception, and we don't have a problem with passive deception necessarily. And I don't think the God of the Bible does either, because in 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 6, he makes the army that's against the Israelites hear things that aren't actually there. So he's doing passive deception in order to save the Israelites from the army. So I don't think the God of the Bible has a problem with the passive deception that Islam proposes.
Sorry, is that for me to respond or?
Yeah, he was talking with you.
So okay, let's walk. Can you bring up that verse? Dan, is that
I'll bring it up for you.
What was the verse?
Yep. Second Kings 6. For the Lord has made the army of the Syrians hear the sound of chariots and horses, the sound of a great army. So they said to one another, behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us. Is what it says. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say in that circumstance that they're analogous with the circumstance that you have with specifically the one of the crucifixion. So how I would sort of bring those two together is when you look at the specific event of the crucifixion or the purported crucifixion, you have, as Michael was saying, you have the event of Jesus was supposedly on the cross, but he was appeared to be like he was on the cross, but he wasn't. He'd already been taken up, and then this led to all of his followers being deceived to believe that he was on the cross, believe this sort of thing, and preach this message, leading to sort of this being the central sort of doctrine within Christianity, and then Christianity growing and then becoming, let's say, the largest religion in the world, which was against actually the religion that God wanted people to follow. But then in this circumstance, this is actually not deception in that sort of way. I would say that it's like God. It's like God allowing it's like God allowing me to have a hallucination, for example. God might permit me to have a hallucination, but that wouldn't be necessarily that he's deceiving me by a specific direct action that he's performing, like you have with the crucifixion. The crucifixion is that he's making people believe that Jesus was actually there when he wasn't there, leading to something which he wouldn't want to occur, which is the growth of Christianity. Now,
and notice also the verse is he just made a sound, and then the Syrian said, "Oh, this is what this means." And but that's not, God just making sounds appear does not mean he's actually making them have the belief as well.
So it's a perception that they had, which took it to be that sort of thing. But with the Quranic passage, you have that it specifically says that God made it appear to them that it was so. So it was God's direct action of actually deceiving these people, which led to something which he wouldn't even want to occur, which was there being a religion that would draw people away from true Islam.
Yes. Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that you're making a distinction from the analogy because of the implication of the action. But that was kind of besides the point. I'll get to that. I'll respond to it. But the point was that the God of the Bible has no problem with passive deception. He can do it, and there's other instances as well. But now to the point. The point is that I have many scholars that say that Christians believing in the first century before the Quran, or even second, third, whatever, before the Quran was revealed, Christians believing that Jesus was crucified doesn't necessarily make them non-Muslims. It's the implication that saying because Jesus was crucified, therefore it follows that he's, God and that he died for our sins. That implication does not necessarily follow from the event of the crucifixion. I can accept that God made it appear for the disciples to believe that Jesus was crucified. That's fine. That doesn't make
you cut out for a second there. So if you're still talking, but you can hear us, pause for a second.
Yeah, I thought that was me for a minute because my internet's been acting up.
Yeah, I need to get a new Ethernet adapter for my computer because it's dying on me.
Josh, do you want to respond to kind of what he was going at there, and then
yeah.
able to come back, you can figure it out.
Yeah. So two things. I think the point that we were saying before is the perception is on the Syrians or the people who were fighting against the Israelites, that God made this specific sound, and then they took it to be this specific thing that occurred, which led to the winning of the battle. But it wasn't God going in and directly deceiving them. What you have with the Quranic passage is, again, as I was saying, God directly going and deceiving these people. It's even more than passive deception, it's active deception, that God made it so to be that they believed that Jesus was being crucified. And then secondly, I think something which is an incorrect understanding of Christianity. Christianity doesn't just see that the disciples became Christians because they believed in the crucifixion. It was the crucifixion and the resurrection. Yeah. Because if it was just the crucifixion alone, they probably would have just gone back to their normal lives. Oh, our Messiah died, he's been crucified, and that was it. It's because they believe that he was crucified and he was risen from the dead. So you have to then account for two events that God allowed to occur based upon this deception, that they were crucified, that Jesus was crucified, and that then they believed that Jesus appeared from the dead. Why would God allow those two events to occur when he could have just easily taken up Jesus without these two things occurring, and thus leading to Christianity becoming the religion that it is?
And of course, we don't have Yahweh saying, "I am the best of deceivers."
Yes,
giving that title to himself. But fortunately, our Muslim friend there dropped out there. Let's do some super chats, and then you got to take off. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's fine. If you have someone, I don't know if there's anyone else waiting. If there's not, then let's focus just on.
There's another person there waiting, but I mean, wait, he just jumped back in. Let's see if he's back now. Do you hear us now?
Sorry, yes, I got a phone call. That's my bad.
Yeah, no worries. It happens. But yeah, if you want to continue on for a little bit. If you want to just explain what you were saying again, Dr. Sijuwade.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying two things that you probably didn't hear it. So the first thing is, I don't believe it's passive deception in the way that you're speaking about. It's active deception in the Quranic passage, because it was God who was making it seem to be the case that he was crucified in their minds. What you have with the passage that you quoted from the Bible, it is actually that God just made a sound appear, and then it was the perception, the subjective perception within their minds, and they took it to be like this, which then led to the outcome that God wanted. And then secondly, it's not just the crucifixion that caused the disciples to believe in Christianity as we understand it. It was the crucifixion and the resurrection. So God allowed two deceptions to occur. He allowed the crucifixion, and then he allowed the post-mortem appearances, which all scholars believe that the disciples at least believed that Jesus had risen from the dead. And so what you have there is, why would God allow the deception in those two specific instances?
Okay, that's perfect. So the first point, I don't think I'm not saying you did it deliberately, but the passage doesn't say that he just laid down the sound and they heard it subjectively. He said that he caused them. He literally says the Lord caused I forgot their name, army something, like their name, but he caused them to hear this. So he's the direct cause for this deception. The sounds didn't actually exist. He made them think they did. Second point is you're making me like ascribe to something that I didn't actually agree to.
Yeah.
The Quran doesn't say that he made it appear that Jesus was risen. That's something that the Quran doesn't speak about, and that's not something I accept. I don't accept that Jesus rose from the dead or something. I don't accept that actually happened. I accept that the disciples may have been deceived by the crucifixion, but it doesn't take them out of the fold of Islam. And it doesn't necessarily follow that just because a man was crucified, now it means that he died for our sins and that he's God. And the point is,
okay. Sorry, Thad.
I was just going to interject a little bit here.
yeah, no problem.
I think when we're let's just pause for the moment of deception, this topic, and then Josh, it sounds like you want to jump on in the whole crucifixion entails other thing that he said. I want to try to make a distinction here, I guess, because I think there's a distinction between a justified use of deception and an unjustified use of deception. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that both instances
okay,
have justified.
With that in mind, if you're thinking about things like in terms of a philosophy of war or anything like this, right? It seems like deception can be justified in terms of epistemic warfare, right? Knowledge-based warfare, and that's the context by which you see Yahweh using deception. And that seems categorically to be like the type of just deception that's going to be justified, right? When we look at the deception that Allah uses, though, he's called the best of deceivers, and I don't see any justification for the deception of Allah making it seem like Jesus was crucified on the cross when he really wasn't, because it's not necessary. There's no epistemic warfare happening. There's no context by which the virtuous thing to do would be to do that thing. Josh, Mike, or Mohammed, like, does what I'm saying make sense?
I get your point of saying like one is the one in the Bible is justified because of this warfare like circumstance going on, but you're saying that when it comes to Jesus, it's not justified. But in my framework, it absolutely is, because God would be saving his righteous servant, his righteous prophet, from his enemies. So there, he would be justified in deceiving his enemies. I don't think that would be an unjustified deception, and I don't think that the deception and by the way, is it
what is the reason?
Believe...
What is the reason for why Allah made it seem like, if the reason for Allah taking Jesus away from the cross is to save Jesus, why not do that just overtly then? Why use deception?
Did we lose him again?
No.
I think
he's got muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
Sorry, my internet really sucks.
Oh, you're good.
But did you hear what I said last?
No, we didn't hear anything.
Yeah. So I was just saying that even in the Bible instance, I don't think that's immoral. I think that's justified. And in the Quran, it's also justified because Allah is saving his righteous servant and his righteous prophet.
I did hear that. I did hear that. Yeah. So you didn't hear? No, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
When you cut out, then you didn't hear my response. So I need to understand what I need to understand is like the reason, the justification for the action of Allah taking Jesus off the cross and making it seem and deceiving people into thinking that he was crucified when he really wasn't. It sounds like what you're saying is the justification is to save Jesus from the torture of the cross. That's what I heard you say. If that's the case, why are we using deception to do that? Allah doesn't need deception if that's the motivation.
Sorry, what was that? Can you just repeat the last thing?
Yeah. If Allah's motivation for taking Jesus off the cross is to save Jesus from the cruelty of the cross, why is deception part of that when Allah is all powerful and can just, if that's his motivation, right? Why not just make a spectacle out of it and take Jesus off the cross and go, listen here, you heathens, like, and then correct them or whatever, right? Like, there's so many better ways to do that if that was the motivation.
Yeah, so I don't really know, how the mind of God works, but I think there's an opinion. I forgot which scholar it is, but the opinion is that because the Jews mocked Jesus, and I think this is recorded even in the Gospels, that they mocked Jesus. Allah wanted to mock them, but this is something that's kind of speculative. I'm not saying this is like the actual position. I'm just
Well, okay,
saying that
that's
we
totally
don't
fine.
know how
We have
God
a symmetry
works.
breaker at this point, then, right? We have a symmetry breaker between how Yahweh uses deception in the New and Old Testament and how Allah uses deception in the Quran. So the argument from deception now that I think it was you, Josh, that brought up first, right? It still maintains, and we can still be consistent in the way that we use it because we have the symmetry breaker.
I think he's muted again.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll back
Sorry.
off after
I
this.
think I can make the same argument that you made. Sorry.
Well, really quick, Josh, you probably have to get going soon. Do you want me to back off so you can jump back in?
No, it's great. It's great what you're saying. I'll probably, let me just hear what he says and then maybe I'll respond and then leave it over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
Mohammed.
I
You can have the
can
last word
make
before
that
Josh
same
butts in.
argument. I appreciate it. So I think I can make that same argument for the instance in Second Kings. I would say, okay, why didn't God, if He's so powerful, Almighty, just support the Israelites in the battle with them? Why did He have to deceive them and do? I can make the same argument and say, well, why didn't He just support them? He's all powerful. He could have just wiped them out. The same way that the same thing. I don't think that's a good
I
argument.
have
To
a
be
great
honest with
answer to that, but for Josh's sake, I'm gonna back off for a second here. We can.
I'll love to hear it before I go off.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, I can answer this on a textual basis and also on a philosophical basis. On a textual basis, I think the Old Testament teaches and talks about something called like the divine council and the rebelling gods of the nations, right? And so the physical wars that you see in the Old Testament are correlative of angelic wars on top of this at the same time. And so now think about like this in terms of like a cosmic court and all these other things. Think about the fact that in the Old Testament, the rebelling Elohim are calling Yahweh the deceiver, and that's why we have this language of Satan being the deceiver and all this other stuff. Put all this into the equation now, right? You have these rebelling Elohim who all these other people groups that are fighting against the Israelites are worshiping. They think Yahweh's a false god. The rebelling Elohim are thinking Yahweh's a false god. They're calling Yahweh the deceiver, all this other stuff, the bad guy. It seems like the best way to show that they are wrong, but also maintain your covenant promises to the people that you've made a promise to, if you're God, is not by just directly killing everybody that questions you, right? But just maintaining your promises to the people groups that you've had. In other words, Satan saying Yahweh's the bad guy, he's the deceiver, all this other stuff. God has also made a promise to the Israelites, hey, I'm going to bring about the redemption of all reality through you. You will be my people. If he decides to wipe out Satan and all the other rebelling Elohim and all the bad guys that like go against him, right? Then he's only proving Satan correct, right? If he just lets the rebelling Elohim and the nations that are warring against Israel just take over Israel and kill Israel, he is breaking his covenant promises to Israel. And so the best thing that Yahweh can do at this point is within like a normative framework, right, is going to be use deception, but don't kill everybody indiscriminately that goes against him. Otherwise, he's proving everybody right. And use deception to protect Israel and guarantee her victory. You starting to get the picture here? Did what I say make sense, Josh? I don't know if you've ever
heard no, it did. It's really good, and it's good bringing in that type of scholarship. I think it's very helpful.
can I respond to that real quickly?
Yeah, and Josh, and then Josh can go.
Yeah, I'm just so you're saying that these people are saying this and they're saying about this about Yahweh, and he's basically doing this to prove them wrong. But the point, if they're saying that he is the deceiver, and then he deceives, wouldn't he be then proving them right? Because if they're saying he's deceiving, he's the deceiver, and then he does that very thing, he's basically proving them right.
Yeah, so there's a slight equivocation here happening, because the word deceiver here is just a categorical title, right? It's not saying in the same sense of a modern language right here, like this guy's just a liar, right? The term deceiver is a title for basically just saying you're the bad guy, right? And so when I'm saying this, what's really happening in the background is deceiver can have the property of the bad guy. He's not a good leader. He's not the just leader, all this other stuff. So let's just put it this way. Imagine we're in a court case, right? And Josh is like, hey, that Than dude, he is just he is a murderer. He's a hothead. If you just say the wrong thing to him at the wrong time, he'll punch you in the face and all this other stuff, right? And now we're in a court case. And let's just say every single time that he speaks, he's just rhetorically, socially undermining me. And the only way that there's two ways I could stop him, right? One is by just punching Josh in the face, right? But then I would only be proving his point, right? The other way would be, well, I can just use some rhetorical, social, like subversive tactics in order to win over the rest of the audiences, right? It seems like that's going to be the best way to overcome the things that are stacked against me, right?
Yeah, okay, I get your point.
And nonetheless, again, Yahweh is using, I think, a justified use of epistemic warfare, right? And that's the way I would categorize things, rather than just indiscriminate, pointless deception.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, you think it's pointless, but it doesn't. That's from your like subjective.
Well, I mean, you yourself said the reason why is to protect Jesus, and then when I pointed out he could have done it XYZ ways, the burden's on you at that point to point to contextual clues as to why Allah would have wanted it to do it a certain way. He did, but you didn't do that. You said, well, nobody really knows the mind of God. And so at this point, if you don't have any other context to add in for why Allah decided to choose this, that's fine. But
I don't
the symmetry
think
breaker then still stands. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think you also have like the proper context, because you're saying, I understand your point of like, oh, they're saying this about Yahweh, and that's why Yahweh acted this way. But the point kind of still stands if they're calling them a deceiver, and I know you're saying I'm equivocating on it, but I truly think that making them hear things and causing them to hear things that don't exist is deception. And you can try to name it something else.
But again,
it's still
is it deception of the kind that is justified, that gives you the epistemic virtue? Like, if I were to look at you and you are a known liar in the sense that like you lie in an unjustified way, right? That's a categorical label that I'm putting on you that marks not virtuous, right? But if I put a label on you as smart epistemic deceiver, right? That is a different categorical label. I'm actually going to be placing a virtue on you at that point, right?
Yes, and that's how I would categorize.
And it's the same thing with Yahweh right there, right?
And I'm saying that's how the same thing with the deceiving that we see, the passive deception in the Quran that I have no problem with. But I feel like we've exhausted.
But you still haven't given a reason why. That's the point. There's a symmetry breaker. There has to be a symmetry breaker.
Well, the reason.
Can I just jump in with something, and then I'll probably just head off? But
sorry, Dr. Sijuwade has been wanting to.
No, that's fine. I'll just ask you just a question, and then just explain something. So, let's say we assume that deception is something which can be done, and there's a justified usage of it. Would you say the core criteria of this would be that deception is okay if it leads to a greater good? If it doesn't lead to a greater good, then it shouldn't be used.
Well, are we saying passive deception or active deception? Because I don't.
We can say both. Let's just say both. Let's just say generally deception as an action. If it leads to a greater good, then that's maybe permissible. If it leads to something which is not a greater good, then that is not permissible.
Are we talking from the perspective of God or perspective of humans?
I'm just saying in general, a general principle that deception is something which should be used if it leads to a greater good. So, for example, if someone is, chasing some girl and I see her hiding in the bushes, it will be really bad for me to say, yeah, she's over there, and then he takes her away. No, it'll be good for me to say, no, she went the other way, because that leads to the greater good of her life being saved. Or if someone's someone's trying to rob a bank and I know where the code is, and then the person asks me, do you know where the code is so I can, enter into the safe? I say, no, I don't know the code. And then he, gets caught or whatever, runs off. That would be a good use of deception because it leads to the greater good of them not being able to steal. So will we say that deception is justified if it leads to a greater good, but it's not justified if it leads to, let's say, a less than greater good? So not a good action.
I would say, well, that's kind of subjective to say like, oh, it's a greater good. Sometimes
whatever the greater good is. I'm just saying the principle. We don't have to say what the greater good is, but generally as a principle.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say it's a greater good that Christianity came about? It's a good thing that Christianity came about.
Well, which form of Christianity? I believe that
Christianity that we have today, being the largest religion in the world, that believes that the Messiah is divine, he died on the cross, and then resurrected from the dead.
Yeah, not this, but I believe that the early Jerusalem Christianity was good.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm saying the Christianity that exists today.
Yeah, no, that's not a good outcome.
Okay, but then God in his omniscience, that means his foreknowledge, that's included in his omniscience. So he knows the future, would know that if he performs this deceptive act, it's not going to lead to the greater good, because it's going to lead to a bad state, in your view, of Christianity existing today as the largest world religion and drawing people away from him. So my point is, it doesn't seem to be working or is contradictory within your worldview, because if you believe that deception is only something which can be used for a greater good, the bringing about of Christianity within your worldview as it exists today is not a good thing. But God in his omniscience would know that if he uses this action of deception, even if it was a good thing for the Jews to be, deceived or whatever, he would know in his foreknowledge that 2,000 years from now, this will lead to the existence of a religion of over 2 billion people that's drawing them away from the truth of Islam. And so why would he use that action when he could have just done what Fan said of using a different action which would not have led to, in his foreknowledge, the existence of the religion today that we have?
Yeah, that's a good point, but I think that it relies on a fallacious ground that it's a non sequitur, that just because the crucifixion happened, therefore Christianity and the dogmas of Christianity could be looked as true, or people could believe it because Jesus looked to be crucified. I don't think that follows at all. For a man to be crucified doesn't equal him being God, doesn't equal him dying.
So for Joshua's sake, really quickly here, because nobody's arguing he was crucified, therefore he was God, right? So
I'm just saying that him being looked like it was crucified doesn't equal Christian dogma from today.
Nobody's saying that.
Yeah. So, but something I would say to you is, if you read the works of people like Tom Holland and a very good book called Dominion, he predicates a lot of what he says upon the suffering of the Messiah. So the death of the Messiah. And that was one of the core tenets that led to Christianity spreading around the world and being able to be a countercultural sort of movement that sort of changed the whole of the Roman Empire when it was existing at that time, and then later spread into the sort of the regions of the world that we see Christianity today. So actually it was, and God will know, it was the crucifixion of Jesus, which in his foreknowledge, this specific person dying would lead eventually to Christianity taking root and spreading in the way. So I'm not saying generally the crucifixion of someone would lead to Christianity coming about, but God knows the crucifixion of this person called Jesus at this specific time, with the followers that he had, would lead to them having post-mortem experiences of him, which will then lead to the religion of Christianity being spread around the world, and thus lead to the religion of Christianity that we have to today. God will know this because this literally is what happened. So why would God then, in his foreknowledge, action this thing when he could have actioned something else? It doesn't seem that it led to a greater good, which we agreed at the beginning was something that is only permissible for the use of deception.
Yeah, so I'm going to raise 2 points. So the first one is still the fan. I don't know how to say your name, but you said that. How is it? How do you say it?
You can call me Than. THKN.
Yeah, he said that.
Sorry, I might have to just leave after what you say, and then sorry. It's just a little bit late here in England compared to America. Where
no problem.
Yeah, real quick, we're gonna wrap this conversation up. Blogging Theology. Paul just showed up in the chat. He jumped in here for a minute, and I was about to bring him in. So, hey, Paul, if you jump back in, we'll bring you back in. So, just letting you know. But yeah, go ahead, Muhammad.
No problem. Okay, so Dan said that we're not arguing that just because Jesus was crucified, therefore, or appeared to be crucified, therefore Christian dogma. But it sounds like Dr. Sijuwade is kind of arguing that, but he's saying it's because of the circumstance, because of who Jesus was. But I don't think that follows, because we have evidence of early Christian groups that believed Jesus was crucified and was suffered on the cross, but didn't believe or
Do you
didn't
know
believe
why
in the
the Ebionites
implication.
and Theodosians
But
and all of them didn't believe in the divinity of Jesus?
yeah, I'm just one second. I'm just saying that just because I'm not getting into their theology, I'm just saying just because they believe that Jesus was crucified doesn't necessarily follow that they believe he died for our sins, or doesn't necessarily believe doesn't necessarily follow that they will have Christian dogma like today.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, but
I feel like that's a non
yeah,
sequitur. But
yeah,
and
but
one more
yeah,
thing, just one more
yeah,
thing.
sorry. Yeah.
About him knowing that he will, what would happen if he does. I mean, the God of the Bible says that if a prophet, he says that I have deceived that prophet. Is a prophet is deceived to say a message? I forgot the exact verse. I have deceived that prophet, and God does things, many things, knowing it will lead to some bad things. But that doesn't mean that He caused those things after. That's a cause and effect fallacy.
No. So one second. So you will, I personally will hold to, and I think most people will hold to, when it comes to the sovereignty of God, that God is providentially in control of things, in that he either actively wills something or he permits that thing to occur. So in the specific event of Jesus dying, and or not dying, or being supposedly put on the cross, God actively willed that there would be deception that would happen. Now then, he then permitted there to be post-mortem experiences which the disciples had. Because if you put away the post-mortem experiences that the disciples had, then you cannot explain how Christianity ever developed within that.
I don't grant that though. Sorry to just jump in, but
Do you grant
I
that?
don't
You see?
grant that he was seen after resurrected or
No,
anything
no,
like
no.
that. I
So
don't
hold
grant
on.
that.
You got to understand the nuance of what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he was seen. It was that they believed that they saw him. So there was a belief that the disciples had that Jesus had risen from the dead. I'm not saying necessarily that this objectively occurred. All I'm just saying is that all you need for what I'm saying to land is that there was a belief that Jesus resurrected from the dead. Now, the problem that you have is that God actively willed the deception of the crucifixion. Then he permitted the belief to occur in the minds of the disciples that Jesus rose from the dead, which then was the motivating factor for them to go around and preach Christianity, which then over time, God also allowed the permitted all of the events that happened that led to the existence of the religion of Christianity that we have today. So my problem is this all stems at the root from God's actively willing the deception to occur, which that if he decided to do another action, all of that chain of sort of things that occurred leading to Christianity would never have actually happened. So I'm not saying generally as a principle, if someone believes, if someone dies on the cross, that means that the dogmas of Christianity are just going to, come about. What I'm saying in this specific case, God knew within his foreknowledge that if this was to occur, this will lead to a subsequent amount of events to occur, which I would then have to permit for them to happen, given my providential control, then leading to Christianity coming about. It doesn't seem that that's a greater good that God will want if he's using deception.
Yeah, we need to wrap up here soon.
Yeah.
I'm just last one question, because you said that pertaining to this point, do you think that your God willed and permitted the message of Islam to come about?
Sorry?
Do you believe that your God permitted and willed the message of Islam to come about?
Well, if you hold to what I was saying about either there being willing or permitting, then God permitted it, yes, as he permits many other things to occur.
Okay. Do you think that Islam today, as it stands, with the dogmas, with the beliefs that it has about Jesus, is a good or bad thing?
I would say within a Christian worldview, it's not a good thing.
Okay, so then you're basically in my position and saying that God willed and permitted something that became about, and he knew from his perfect foreknowledge that he knew that this would become into a bad thing. So we're kind of in the same boat.
No, there's no symmetry there at all, because you added something which I didn't say. I didn't say that God willed Islam to come about. I said he permitted it. There's a difference in the position with Christianity. It says that God actively deceived them. He actively made it seem to be the case that Jesus was crucified. So it was active willing that led to this. It's different from God permitting. So, for example, someone going and murdering someone or raping someone, God doesn't will that thing to occur. He permits it to happen to maintain the freedom of the will of the person. It's the same way that he permitted Muhammad or whoever, brought about the religion of Islam to go about and do what he did to bring about Islam, but doesn't mean he actively willed it. With Christianity, it's different. God actively willed the crucifixion, then knowing within a few days it would lead to supposedly post-mortem beliefs that the disciples had, which then led to them preaching Christianity around the world. So I never said that God actively willed Islam, but he did actively will the crucifixion.
But according to the Bible, he did, because it says, Ezekiel 14:9, if a prophet is deceived into giving a message, he says, the Lord is speaking, he says, I have deceived that prophet.
Yeah.
So would that not be the Lord Yahweh deceiving the Prophet Muhammad and coming out of Islam?
Sorry, Mike, jump in.
I'm gonna let you respond real quickly, and then we need to move on. We've been going.
No problem. Of course, no problem. Yeah. He can respond, and that's it. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so firstly, I wouldn't. There's a presumption there that you will take Muhammad to be one of the prophets. So I wouldn't take necessarily Muhammad to be a prophet that was sent by God. So it's the same way that, for example, I was watching a documentary where there was a guy in Africa who's going around calling himself Jesus, and we see this all the time. We see all these people going around having messianic complexes and believing that there are these things. Am I believing that God is actually doing that? And would you believe that God is actually willing that that person does that? Of course not. But God is permitting that person has the freedom of the will to exercise themselves in that way, leading to this sort of event. What I'm saying with the crucifixion event is that you take Jesus to be a prophet. I don't necessarily take Muhammad to be a prophet. You take Jesus to be a prophet, and according to your Quran, God went and actively willed for the crucifixion to appear to the disciples in the way that it did, leading then eventually in his foreknowledge, him knowing, to Christianity existing in the way that it is today. That doesn't seem to be what we said at the beginning, that this is a greater good that God will bring about with his deception. So he wouldn't use deception as a mechanism.
All right. We appreciate you coming, Muhammad. When we should continue this conversation when we do this again. I appreciate you so much. Do you need to take off, Dr. Sijuwade?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I'll be more than happy to come on. So just let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know.
It's fun, Josh. I'll send you my thing I told you about.
Yeah. Let's speak about it. You're doing great work, man. So I'm looking forward to it. And thanks a lot, Mike, as well.
Thank you. We have a special guest that just showed up. I can't believe this is happening, but it is the very honorable Blogging Theology here. How are you doing today, Paul?
Please don't flatter me. No, it's thank you for suddenly taking me on like this. I was just passing by, Nazam from Speaker's Corner sent me your link, and you said if you want to go on, click on the link. So I thought, why not?
Nice.
I was just listening to Dr. Joshua. I met Dr. Joshua first of all. In fact, the only time I've ever met him was at Speaker's Corner, where he bravely came down and debated Muslims. And I had one or two very stimulating discussions with him as well. It's been on my channel once, but that was the only time I met him at Speaker's Corner.
Oh, you just missed him, man. He's super late where he's at. He had to take off, but yeah.
No.
But yeah, man, it's cool to see you here. How long you been watching? You said you just tuned in a little bit here. Have you been paying attention?
10, 15 minutes. I was much taken by the line of questioning, and I thought, I'm no expert, but I thought I'd pop in and have a chat as well. Was that the dominant discourse about Islam and the crucifixion? Or was that
we were talking about crucifixion. If I remember your position correctly, I remember watching a couple of the podcast episodes you did. You deny the crucifixion. Is that correct?
Well, I have no idea what happened, so I just go by what the Quran says. As a Muslim, I just accept the very, very brief statements in the fourth surah about that. And so what it says is the word of God. So I accept revelation, as we should. We should always accept God's revelation, even when I have no personal knowledge of the matter. So
interesting. So then you cool if we ask you some questions about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So then what do you do, like with, for example, Surah 4:47, where it says that I'll just put it up and read it for you, because I think that'll be best instead of.
Yeah, I'll look it up I've got my Abdul Halim translation. Is it 4:47, is it?
Yeah, I'll go to there. I'm going to put on the screens for the audience sake, since it's better for them. Oh, you who were given the book, believe in what we revealed, confirming your scriptures before we wipe out your faces, turning them backwards. So it's talking, those who were given the book, believe in what we have revealed, confirming your scriptures, talking about the Quran. So then my issue is if we believe in the Quran that Jesus wasn't crucified, but then it also says in the very same chapter that it's confirming our scriptures, I'm going to go, well, that doesn't make sense, because very clearly in our scriptures it says Jesus was crucified. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, it's a complicated subject, actually, and there are many nuances to this. My understanding is when we're dealing with revelation, God's revelation to prophets, to humankind, God says in the Quran that God sent the Injil, singular, to Jesus. It's not the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they weren't written at the time of Jesus, obviously. So even our four Gospels, say Mark, for example, says that Jesus went around Galilee preaching the Gospel, the Injil in Arabic. So clearly there's a Gospel there, which is not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which were written anonymously many decades later. It also says that it sent the Torah to Moses, and it sent the Psalms to David, and scriptures to Abraham and other prophets as well. So we know that they're not identical to our modern scriptures, because there's the allegation in the Quran of corruption, both oral and textual corruption of those scriptures. But also the Injil, the Christian scriptures, have been misidentified. I think what the Quran is saying, it's not the letters of Paul, it's not anonymous second generation evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The revelation the Quran is referring to is the Injil itself. And even the Gospels in your Bible refer to that. Now, the Quran can't be endorsing the New Testament you have, because it denies that Jesus is the Son of God. It denies that he was crucified. It denies he is God, in the sense that John's Gospel may say in some sense that Jesus is divine. So clearly it's not endorsing that. It's endorsing the original revelation given to the people of the scripture, i.e. the original followers of Jesus and the original followers of Moses and all the other prophets as well.
So then, let me go back to the verse here. So when this verse is being given, what scriptures did the Jews and the Christians possess? Because it says confirming your own scriptures. Didn't Christians, wouldn't they have considered Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John scripture at this point, though? Wouldn't they have?
Yeah. Well, we must look at all the verses in the Quran, not just one, to understand the totality of what the Quran is saying, and also other references in Hadith as well. And when you look at the overall picture, the other verses I could refer to in the 5th surah, where the Quran is a muhaymin, a quality control over the scriptures, with the implication being that where there are differences between what the Quran says and what the extant scriptures of the people of the book say, we should go with the final uncorrupted pure revelation that has not been distorted and changed. So I think we need to take all of these factors into consideration and not just isolate one text, because there is a complicated and nuanced message going on here. But the Quran's rejection of the crucifixion is absolutely important here. It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? The Quran can't be endorsing the Bible we have, because the Bible we have, the New Testament, clearly affirms that.
So you brought up Surah 548, which again, we go to that one all the time. Let me make sure I got this up here. Let me scroll up a little bit here. So my problem is you said it's a muhaymin.
Can I just come back to you? What is the revelation given to Jesus, do you think? What is the revelation that Jesus himself preached? What was that?
So that would have been the gospel message that he would have gone around preaching, which is in the four gospels we have. Go ahead, Than. Do you want to add something?
I was just going to say the gospel that Jesus is preaching is not a written book or anything like that, that you see recorded in like the Gospel of Mark or anything like that. And when you even look at like the Gospel of Luke or the Gospel of Mark, when you look at the Greek word, like evangelion, evangelios menu, when it's like preaching the gospels, the verb form of the Greek. When you look at the Septuagint rendering of that word, you can then look back into the parallels for the Hebrew Bible. And it's the same type of messages you'll see in, for instance, like the Psalm, where it says like, he who brings the good news of Yahweh to your feet, or anything like that. It's a message, not a physical book, if that makes sense.
No, I think it could be argued both ways, and I don't really have a view on that. It could have been a book. It could have been like the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, had as well. It could be an oral recitation. I'm not sure, to be honest.
So,
but I mean, like, but go ahead, Fan. I'll let you go.
No. I was just going to ask a quick question because this is one of the things I was thinking about even earlier. Let me just make sure I'm understanding you correctly too, really quickly. Are you saying your hypothesis is that the Injil is a book given to Jesus, and that at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, that book was intact, and that's what these verses are talking about when it tells Christians to judge by that?
As I say, I'm agnostic. I don't know if it was a written text or it was more of an oral recitation, like I was given the Prophet Muhammad. But what I do want to stress, I mean, look at Quran 548, for example. We get the sense of,
I'll put it back up. You could keep talking. I accidentally closed out of the window.
I totally understand that you're agnostic there.
I
entertain the hypothesis really quickly. My issue there is just going to be like, even if we want to posit that to explain it, then one of my issues is going to be that source, whether it's written or oral, would seem to directly contradict the canonical gospels that the church had for a very long time.
True.
And it's
I just want to share with you, with Quran 540, I just want to read it out. This is from Muhammad Assad's amazing translation. And unto thee, O Muhammad, we have vouchsafed this divine writ, this revelation, the Quran, setting forth the truth, confirming the truth of whatever there still remains of earlier revelations, and determining what is true therein. Judge then between the followers of earlier revelation in accordance with what God has bestowed on high, and do not follow their errant views, forsaking the truth that has come unto them. So my understanding is that the Quran confirms and determines what is true in previous revelations. And this is an important point. It's not simply endorsing the Bible. But I've got a friend of mine, Usman Sheikh, who is currently doing his PhD at Oxford University and has written extensively on this subject, and has been quoted by leading scholars such as Nicholas Sinai. And his thesis is that the Quran retells the stories of, say, the birth of Jesus, or the stories about Moses and other key figures, but in accordance with his own understanding of the truth, what really happened. So there's a subtle correction of the biblical stories. It's a very nuanced thing the Quran is doing, and it's not simply is it endorsing it or not? When you get down into the weeds, in the kind of depth of it, the Quran is doing something remarkably subtle. Other Western scholars like Sidney Griffiths, who's a professor at the Catholic University of America, a leading scholar of the Quran, also notes that on his book, The Bible in Arabic. So these are many scholars recognize this very nuanced dialectic between affirmation and also critique when it comes to the scriptures of the people of the book. And these are prominent Western scholars.
So I want to address that because you said a lot there. So my first thought is, okay, so like, who is Allah through Muhammad talking to in Surah 5 when he tells people in like the previous verse, for example? Let me just put that back up there. O people of the gospel, judged by what Allah has revealed in it. So who is he talking to here?
The people that would be Christians, of course. All Christians, because it's not just the people of Muhammad upon whom peace is stayed, of Christians throughout history. But I want to come back to 548 here.
Well, hold on. I have still like same thing in Surah 568 too. So, oh, people of the book, you've nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. I'll just say my point. I'm not going to just lead you down a series of questions, but it seems as though if Allah is talking to me as a Christian and he says, hey, believe in what we revealed to you, if he does not say on top of that, by the way, that includes the Quran and only the parts of your scripture that agree with it, that gives me the free range to go, okay, I'm going to go to the Old and New Testament. That's what God has revealed to us. It's like if I went to you, and I said this to a Muslim earlier in the stream, if I went to you and said, hey, I'm a prophet, Paul, you should believe in what has been revealed to you from your Lord. You're not going to go to the New Testament. You're going to go to the Quran. Likewise, if Allah is talking to us Christians, we're not going to go to the Quran. We're going to go to the New Testament for what has been revealed to us from our Lord, because Allah nowhere in this specifies which part of the revelations to believe in and which not to. If you have other verses in the Quran where it says our scriptures have been corrupted, that just shows a contradiction there, because we're to believe in our scriptures wholesale, Surah 285, Surah 568. But if they've also been corrupted, that's going to create a huge problem. So that's what I'm trying to get at here, if that makes sense. But I'll go back up to the verse you wanted to go to.
Yeah, no, I think there's a question of methodology here. My method, it may not be the same as yours, is to look at all the verses pertaining to this subject in Revelation, in the book of the Quran. You need to take them all, both those that affirm and those that critique. And if you take some and not the others, you're going to get a less than full picture. So let's go back to Surah 548 in Muhammad Assad's translation, which certainly gets the gist of it very accurately. And again, this is the message. And unto thee, talking to the prophet, have we vouchsafed this divine revelation, setting forth the truth, confirming the truth, or whatever there still remains of earlier revelation, and determining what is true therein. Judge then between the followers of earlier revelation in accordance with what God has bestowed from on high, but don't follow their mistaken or their errant views, forsaking the truth that has come unto them. Now, a Christian or anyone reading this would understand the Quran is both confirming the truth, but in the sense that also there is corruptions mixed in with it. And it's this total picture that is missing from what you are saying. The Hadith also give a very similar view that where the prophet teaches to mankind, to people, that there has been this textual corruption. And I come back again to this very subtle point that, to my knowledge, no Christian other than scholars ever acknowledges. If you look, and I can send you a PDF of the academic treatise, which got a distinction at Oxford for my friend, and was quoted by Nikolai Sinai many times in his recent academic work. Nikolai Sinai is professor of Islam at Oxford, and he's not a Muslim. As I was saying, Usman Sheikh's work is a very fine detection work in seeing how the Quran corrects and retells the stories you find in the Bible, telling the truth about what really happened. And you find this all over the place. So to simply have this kind of binary, does it or doesn't affirm, is missing the point. If you look at the whole of the Quran's interaction with the Bible, Sidney Griffiths also does this as well, you will get this complicated and fascinating picture. But if you don't do that and you just pick on an isolated verse here and there and say, well, that's it, you're going to miss this. And I
totally agree. I actually agree with what you're saying here.
I do call on Christians who are involved in polemics to acknowledge this, because the Christian scholar, Sidney Griffiths, is actually a Catholic priest, and others do recognize this, and they will acknowledge experts in the field.
So I totally agree with what you're saying here. We do need to look at multiple verses. I totally agree. We've done that on this channel a lot. We've gone to Surah 2, Surah 3, Surah 4, Surah 5, Surah 10, Surah 29, all over to make this argument. But you said something interesting I do want to comment on. You said the Quran is subtly correcting the stories. Yes. Here's my problem with that. Let's just look. I want to come back to Muhammad here in Surah 548, because I do have some issues with that, and I want to bring up a scholar. But in Surah 1094, we don't get that message from Allah. In Surah 1094, hold on. Let me finish my point here.
You're avoiding this verse like the plague. Can we focus, please, on Quran 548, because it is a very
hold on. Paul, you just said we got to take a holistic view, and now you want to focus in on one verse. I'm like, yeah, holistic. Let's go, all the verses, and now you're like, no, one verse.
But this is the one verse you're ignoring, sir. You don't want to talk about it. So can we look at this verse, please? Because you don't want to focus it in. If you did, your case would collapse. That's why you're avoiding it. I would respectfully suggest.
I will immediately go back to Surah 548 as soon as I read this. But again, if the Quran is correcting stories, it says the opposite. If you, O prophet, are in doubt about that what we have revealed to you, then ask those who read the scriptures before you. The truth has certainly come to you from your Lord, so do not be like one of those who doubt. In other words, the stories that we have in the Quran should be the same as what we have in our other scriptures, because that's what Allah is telling him. Now, I'll go back to Surah 5 right away, but if you want to talk about that, I'll give you that last word on that.
That verse, the last verse does say that, but you're not taking it into context. It's historical context of Revelation, which is talking about something very specific. But coming back to 548, so this is addressing the idea, the Muhammad, the kind of quality control that the Quran is exercising over previous revelations, pointing out what is true and where it's been falsified. I say this has been noted by a number of Western scholars. It's not something I've invented. So I think it's an important verse that you and others always kind of step over and don't want to confront, because it doesn't fit in with your thesis really. Of
I'll be honest with you, Paul. We have talked about this verse extensively on this channel. I have slides made here for previous streams I can bring up on this verse if you want me to. We love this verse.
I'm not going to do a deep dive without having done my own preparation on this. I'm simply quoting from a good translation of the Quran.
Totally fair.
So I think, I just popped in. I was walking by. You obviously prepared for this. I haven't. But I am
Where
happy.
Can I find the translation really quickly? So just so I can really quickly.
If you just Google Muhammad Assad's translation of the Quran, and
again, Paul, I totally get you're not prepared. If you want, but like, just hear me out for a second. You've been talking about scholars. Let me bring up a scholar who I love to read, Sean Anthony. When he talked, he did a whole. He's an Islamic scholar, as you know. He's done a lot of work on this. He's got an interesting thread he posted a while on the whole issue of Muhammad. And what he does is he connects it to Aramaic cognates. He comes to the conclusion. I'll just jump to the conclusion and let you jump in here. But he says it speaks of two servants, each a good and faithful servant, because he is faithful over little. In the Quran, similarly, Muhammad, Allah, is the past scriptures as it's faithful to. So his conclusion is Muhammad does not mean like supreme authority or a criterion. For Khan in like Surah 253 means criterion. But here he's arguing that it actually means guardian or faithful servant.
Yeah, I mean, if you put me back on the main screen again, I want to show you something.
Yeah, go for it.
This is key terms of the Quran, a critical commentary by Nikolai Sinai, professor at Oxford University. If you look up the chapter on Muhammad, which I have, you'll find in a much more rigorous and scholarly way what I've just said. I'm not saying 100% of scholars all agree on everything. They don't. But I'm saying a very strong scholarly case can be made by non-Muslim top scholars that, in fact, Muhammad does have that function of an overseer as a final determinant of what is and what isn't true, remaining in the extant scriptures of the people of the book.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Key. It's just been published, actually. Key Terms of the Quran, a critical commentary by Nikolai Sinai, published by Princeton University Press. Nikolai Sinai, professor of Islamic Studies, University of Oxford. He's one of the world's leading experts, and he has a big section on precisely this question. Again, this is above my pay grade. I'm not the professor at Oxford, but I do refer you to that. A very different perspective than the one you just mentioned.
I have put that in. I'm just telling you, I will put that in my Amazon. I will buy that book today just for you.
Well, don't buy it just for me. Buy it just for you.
That's what I mean. I'm buying it on behalf, just out of respect for you, sir.
No. Just buy it for your own education, please. And I'm not dogmatically saying this is an inerrant text like the Word of God. I'm simply saying it's an excellent resource that's been endorsed by a whole heap of top scholars on the back. It's a good resource to have. But can we move? Either we move on from this because it's tired of it, or perhaps maybe we can draw a veil over this now because I've said my piece and I'm not going to budge from my insistence that the Quran says what it says. Or do you want to talk about something else?
I want to just go back to the Surah 548 here again. I want to put that back on the screen because I think this is very important.
Yeah, I just said, can we draw a line on this now? I've kind of said what I'm going to say this evening without further preparation. Is there another subject to talk about, or is that it for the moment? Which is fine. I'm happy to withdraw.
I'm more than happy. I actually would really be interested to hear your take on Surah 61 because this is something that I have talked about before on the channel.
Can I ask you a question? Maybe I can.
You know what? Yeah, you go forward. We've been hammering you a little bit here on Muhammad, and
that's speakers. I get this all the time at speakers, so this is cool. No, I would refer you to the scholars I've mentioned for a more in-depth discussion, which is in line with the common Muslim view. So, in your view, I'll ask you as attributes of God. In your view, is God eternal, immortal, all-knowing, or powerful?
Wait, never mind. I'm sorry. You guys moved on. Moved on.
Yeah, but Thane, this is definitely your topic. So feel free to jump in. We would both.
It's not my topic.
No, you guys moved on from. I was reading the translation. I was reading the translation while you guys were talking. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I just have a potential thing.
So the question was, do you believe, if you allow me, in terms of your understanding of who God is he all powerful, all knowing, immortal, eternal? Does he have those attributes?
Yeah. Well, we can start there with loose definitions if you're happy with that.
It's not a loose definition. I think it's a very precise definition. For example, is God all knowing? Is he omniscient?
What do you mean by all knowing?
Omniscient. Sorry,
what does that mean?
Knowing all true propositions.
No,
Right.
it means
So I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be pedantic here. It's just like when philosophers talk about some of these terms,
I'm not a
there's
philosopher.
way too many ways to model them out.
I'm absolutely
Here's
not.
what we'll say.
I'm absolutely not asking for a definition given by an analytical philosopher from Cambridge. I'm asking you the everyday definition. It does God know?
That's what I'm saying. We can start there. We can start there. But
here's what I would say. Let me just answer this. Yeah, we believe God is omniscient in the sense that he knows all true propositions.
Right. So does he know everything though?
No, he knows all true propositions. Yeah. So that would, I think that'd be a colloquial sense of what we're saying. Yeah.
No, I mean, is he all knowing? Does he possess complete and unlimited knowledge of everything that exists or has existed or will exist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You both agree with that. Excellent. My next
Presently,
question is, do you believe Jesus is God?
Yeah. Yeah. We know where you're going, but yeah, we believe Jesus is God. Yeah.
Right. So you believe that Jesus possessed complete and unlimited knowledge and awareness of everything that existed or has existed or will exist. Yeah.
He does now. Yes.
Oh, he does now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there was a time when he didn't.
There was a time when, according to Philippians 2, he emptied himself and took the form of a slave.
No. I'm talking about knowing things. Was he all knowing in the sense you've just agreed, or not?
When he was a human, before his death and resurrection.
I'm just saying, Jesus acquired Jesus. Jesus is God. You agree he's God. So Jesus is God. Therefore, it follows very simply and logically that he must have possessed complete and unlimited knowledge.
So I'll just say this: it doesn't logically follow, because it depends on whether or not you want to say perfect knowledge is an essential attribute, or a fundamental attribute, and then there's going to be other parts of it. Like, so if it's an essential attribute of God that God is going to be at all times and places, all knowing, then this argument might run. But there's models of God and models of divine properties that are going to logically cohere with each other that don't entail that.
So you're saying that God has character as attributes. Some are essential and some are like a piece of clothing. You can just take them off.
So when I say by essential, I'm saying essential attributes in metaphysics are going to be things that are going to be essential to identifying a thing as that thing in of itself, if that makes sense. And then all I'm saying is that there are models of theism that do not posit omniscience as an essential property.
But you just said that God was all-knowing as an attribute, but you're saying this attribute can be disengaged, that sometimes God knows everything and sometimes he doesn't know things. So sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't.
Right, but so when you're saying God is, you're predicating God has this property, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Having that property does not equate to being identical to that property.
Yeah,
right.
But that wasn't my question. Is you suggest changeability in God. So sometimes God knows everything, and at other times he doesn't know everything. God changes. Sometimes he's ignorant.
So right now, all I'm saying is that I'm pointing to just a logically possible way to model out God's relation to this particular property of omniscience in a way that, even if we would say, for instance, that Jesus became incarnate and was God and did not know everything, we have no logical contradiction because of the nature of our understanding of properties and how they relate to identities.
So God changes, in other words. Sometimes he's one thing and sometimes he's another. He's not consistent, obviously.
God's still God the whole entire time. If omniscience is not going to be an essential
very
property.
Interesting, because there's a whole bunch of properties that I mentioned: omniscience, omnipotence, or powerfulness, eternity, and so on. Which of these is essential property of God, and which of these are kind of occasionally redundant and not part of God's nature? So what is God's nature?
Yeah, for me, so I mean, like, I think the best model out there is going to be like omnipotence being an essential property.
Is that the one attribute that God doesn't change?
Wait, what?
Is that the one attribute of God that never changes, in your view?
That doesn't change, or is not exercised
isn't done away with at some point. So you're saying that God sometimes doesn't know things, sometimes
that's not what I said.
Okay.
So again, let's take omnipotence for instance, right? God the Son becomes incarnate. Jesus still contains that essential property of omnipotence, but then can choose to not utilize those things, right?
So what is the essential property of God, of deity, minus his omnipotence, minus all the other attributes we've yet to go through? What is this rump deity that is God, that is not essential? That is essential. Sorry, the other attributes.
Paul, hold on. There's a categorical difference between what I'm doing here and what you're trying to do, right? In order for because right now what you want to say is Jesus cannot be incarnate because God is.
I haven't said anything yet. I'm asking you a question. Please don't put words in my mouth here. That's not quite fair.
Well,
I'm trying to get to who is God in your Christian faith. So you're saying it's not essential attribute of God that he knows all things. And we're going to go, the next question would be, is God immortal? Is he eternal? And you're going to say, no, he's not, because Jesus died. Are you not?
Well, no, that's actually not what I'm going to say.
No.
But remember, when I'm saying essential properties, right, I'm saying the word essential is describing the relationship of that property with the identity of the thing that we're attaching that property to. So in order to be God, you have to at all times know all true propositions at all times, right? But if it's just not the case that it is an essential property of God to have omniscience, right? And that is a logically possible state of affairs.
Okay, but I've asked you, what are the essential attributes of God such that God could not have them to be God? And I'm still not clear what your answer is. Could you perhaps have another go and try and explain?
Well, no matter how I answer that at the end of the day, right? The line of questioning that you're trying to ask right now as it pertains to omniscience.
So yes, but my next question, as I've already revealed to you, is God immortal? Okay, and
sure, we can go down that route.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think Jesus physically died.
That wasn't my question. Is God immortal?
Yes.
Yes.
He is. Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't believe Jesus died on the cross then?
Paul, I got a question to answer that question. If you die, do you go out of existence?
No. Sorry.
Do you go to Gehenna?
No. That's not an answer. My question is, if Jesus is God, which you've already said you believe, and God is immortal, because the Bible clearly states that, and you said yes, I would say that Jesus, in your logic, could not have died on the cross because Jesus was God. It's a simple logical.
Well, what does die mean? What does die mean?
No, because he is immortal. Because he is immortal. If you want to know what immortal is, I can look it up for you. But it means
I want you to define die. Define the word die for me.
No. What does the word immortal mean? Because the Bible uses this term. I'm not inventing
Cannot
it.
fail to exist. Cannot fail to exist or will continue to exist, depending on how you're looking. Because we would say we will be immortal with God, so we will continue to exist. Or you could say possibly people may define it in terms of like cannot fail to exist, but I would define that more as necessity. So I would say continue to exist.
It's not something it's not. Come on, it's not subject to death. Something that cannot die. But you believe that Jesus did die.
So this is why we're asking you to find death.
I'm confused about your logic here. Your basic theological logic. You're attributing to one person both immortality and that he is subject to death, and he did die. And I'm saying I, for the life of me, can't see the coherence in that belief.
Sure. Let me explain it to you. So here's what we're doing. The reason why we keep asking you to find death is because when Jesus died, he did not go out of existence. We talked about immortality as like cannot fail to exist, depending on how you define it, or will continue to exist. When Jesus on the cross, he said to the thief, "Today I will be with you in paradise." It's not that he like went out of existence or lost his immortality. The spirit of Jesus continued on. Therefore, he still existed. What he lost was his physical body died for 3 days, and then he came back to life. So therefore, and again, here's a simple thought analogy. If God wanted to experience physical death, how would he do it? Well, he would become a man and then die. But that doesn't mean he'd go out of existence, Paul. It means that he would continue to exist as a spirit. Right now, God, for example, God the Father is a spirit and always has been a spirit. He's not failing to exist because he lacks a body. When Jesus lost his body, he did not come out of existence.
Did his divine nature die on the cross?
Did his divine nature die on the cross?
Correct.
Is that what you're at?
Absolutely. Simple question. Yes or no?
Well,
and don't ask me a question back.
It's not.
You need to answer.
His physical body died on the cross. And like when I die, I will still have a human nature that will continue on after my death. So my physical body will die. My human nature will continue. Jesus' human and divine nature continued on.
Right. So my question was, let's try again. Did Jesus' divine nature die on the cross? Yes or no?
No, I've said it does not. It continues on.
I see. So Jesus' death for you was just his human nature, like a human sacrifice, a human physical sacrifice on the cross. It wasn't Jesus as one person, because Christians believe, Orthodox Christians anyway, with a small o, that Jesus was one person, not two. So that one person, only part of him died, the human bit, the bodily bit, and the other bit, the divine bit, didn't die. Because, as you correctly say, God is immortal, and this distinction is very peculiar. Because I'm told that a human being can't die to reconcile the sins of the world, and now you're telling me actually a human being and only a human died, not Jesus' divine nature.
So his divine and human nature went through the process of death, like my human nature will go through the process of death. But what dies is, of course, the physical body. It is not our spirit. It is not our soul. Our souls continue on. We'd say our mind, our consciousness continues on. And so that all continues on. But he went through the process of death. Now, you talked about atonement theory there a little bit. You kind of implied penal substitution. I don't hold a penal substitution. So I actually hold a ransom theory. So this is a little bit different.
I'm trying to work out your concept of God. So you're being consistent. You don't think God doesn't die, that God is immortal, despite your fact that you believe Jesus died on the cross. So you believe in human sacrifice. God desires a human sacrifice and nothing but a human sacrifice to atone for sin. Or at least Paul teaches that in Romans and many other places.
I just said I reject penal substitution. So why did you just ask me about it?
I'm just quoting your scriptures. If you don't agree with them, that's fine. I'm not saying you must. I don't want you to agree with everything in your Bible. But Paul says that just teach that Jesus' death was an atoning sacrifice. Are you denying that?
So why don't we read the verse? Why don't you bring up the verse and let's read it?
Well, Paul, wait, really quickly too, Paul, are you familiar with the disputes about like the atonement theory in general?
Yeah, and there are lots in the early church. There are many understandings of it. But the problem is this: if you, at the end of the day, are saying that human sacrifice was required to atone for our sins,
what's the verse?
This is a repugnant idea.
So wait, hold on. You think atonement, sacrifice for someone's sins, that's immoral? That should be rejected. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying human sacrifice, which is what you believe in, because do you believe Jesus' death was a sacrifice at all?
We believe that he was a ransom. As Paul says, he was given as a ransom for many. So it's a ransom to Satan on ransom theory. This is what the early church fathers talked about. But my question is, are you saying that someone dying for someone is somehow bad?
Romans 3:25, God presented Christ as a propitiation, or mercy seat in Greek.
Bad translation.
By his blood, to be received by faith.
The better translation there's going to be expiation.
Draws on sacrificial imagery from the Hebrew Bible, especially Yom Kippur there.
Say that again, Than.
The better translation for that word I forget what the Greek is off the top of my head for propitiation is expiation.
Well, this is a dispute, as you say, but sacrificial imagery is clearly there. He says in Galatians 3:13, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, "Cursed to everyone who hangs on the tree." So Jesus' crucifixion absorbs the curse due to sin. That is a kind of atonement, is it not?
Yeah, we hold to atonement, but again, we have to take this in the context of our theory. My question: are you saying seriously? I need to know. I need to know what you're getting at. Are you saying atonement theory, any sort of atonement for sin, is wrong or immoral?
I'm saying that God, in the Torah and many other places, says that human sacrifice, for whatever reason, is an abomination, and it's simply un-Jewish. It's repugnant to Jews. That's why they don't follow the Christian Jesus, because you don't need it. Most sins can be forgiven for, even in the Torah, on the basis of asking God to forgive, and that's what Jesus taught in many places in the Synoptic Gospels. God forgives you.
I'm just asking: is God immoral for having certain people be like a ransom for us in terms of taking away our sins? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about human sacrifice. The idea that God
exactly. You're saying that's immoral, right?
Well, God condemns human sacrifice. Are you aware of those verses? Would you like me to show them to you?
I'm totally aware of the verses, but I need to know, are you saying that a human ransom for sins is immoral?
A human sacrifice is immoral. Of course it is.
So,
I need to know from you, Mike, for the sake of your salvation, are you seriously saying that you believe in a human sacrifice to save your soul?
We believe, again, do you want me to explain ransom theory and how this actually plays out? Because I don't think you understand it.
I don't want you to explain ransom. I want you to tell me what you think I'm not interested in a textbook.
Well, that's what we're trying.
That's
to,
what
we're
that's what we're trying to do. We believe in ransom theory.
Don't
So
hold
you
to this.
believe a human being is sacrifice on a cross is somehow what God desires, and God cannot forgive sin the other way.
No. See,
no,
okay,
no,
let
no.
me stop you right there really quickly, because the way you're rhetorically framing this is it's carrying subtext that Mike and I would deny.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me about the subtexts are not explicit, so you're kind of you're doing eisegesis, so to speak, into what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that God does not require any kind of sacrifice to forgive. Look at the Lord's Prayer in the Sermon on the Mount. Forgive us our trespasses, the paradigmatic prayer, as we forgive those who sin against us. The idea of debt and sin is simply done away with by God's forgiveness and mercy. It's very Islamic, actually. And
right.
No, it isn't.
Well, there's also another
No, it isn't. It's not
problem,
Islamic
right?
at all. It's
the
exact
curse
opposite of what
sin.
Islam teaches.
It's the curse of sin and what?
So here's why it's because, and again, here's we have this hadith here. Messenger of Allah said on the day of the resurrection, Allah will deliver to every Muslim, a Jew and a Christian, and say, this is your ransom from hellfire. So it's not so much in Islam that you just get forgiven. We are your saviors in Islam. We are the ones who atone for your sins.
This is the day of resurrection. I'm talking now. How are sins forgiven today? So when I pray 5 times a day and I ask God forgive my sins, am I thinking of the day of resurrection? No, I'm relying on, as the first surah, Surah Fatiha, which we recite 17 times a day, that God is most merciful and compassionate. And so this is the essence of Islam. In Christianity, however, as you understand it, a sacrifice is required before God can forgive us our sins. And this is very un-Christ-like, and it's not required by Jesus' teaching, certainly not by Islamic teaching, which is why if you want to follow Jesus, you need to be a Muslim and not follow these later theologies.
This is again a sacrifice here. We are the ransom from hellfire for you. It doesn't matter what you do now, because you're praying to God for him to deliver you from that hellfire. And who does it? Through us. That's the problem.
So
remember what I said today. That we receive forgiveness of sins because God is merciful and just. That's the teaching of the Quran all the way through. This is referring to the day of resurrection, and I'm not sure ransom here refers to sacrifice. Certainly not human sacrifice, which is what you appear to believe.
You don't think we're going to be sacrificed in the fire for you? Look at that. That looks like a sacrifice to me.
It's not a sacrifice for sin.
Well, that's exactly what it is for. A Jew or Christian, this is your ransom from hellfire.
No, it's not. How am I forgiven my sins today in Islam, do you think?
So I have to bring this up.
How is a Muslim, what is the understanding of the Quran when it says, how are sins forgiven now?
Sahih Muslim 2767 says that it's similar thing here, is that we atone for your sins.
No, you don't atone for sins. How are we forgiven today? The answer is in the Quran that we return to a merciful God who forgives us our sins. This is very much what Jesus taught in Luke 15, for example, in the parable of the prodigal son, or the story of the tax collector and the Pharisee.
But I mean, according to the hadith here, there will come people amongst the Muslims on the day of resurrection with as heavy sins as mountains, and Allah will forgive them, and he will place on their stead the Jews and the Christians. So no, you're forgiven because your sins are going to be placed on us, according to authentic hadith.
That's not what it says. It says Allah would forgive them. Forgiveness. That's exactly what I've been saying all along. Jesus didn't teach human sacrifice. Muhammad and all the prophets didn't teach that. This says Allah will forgive them. Forgiveness is why? Atonement is not forgiveness. Atonement is a sacrifice. It's a payment of a sin debt. And the two are not the same. Forgiveness and sin debt are not the same. They're different conceptually. And you're confusing the two. But I want to come back.
You're accusing us of stuff we don't believe. I would like for Than to actually explain ransom theory, because this is what the church fathers taught. He's very good at this, and I think that will help some of this confusion, because you're pushing penal substitution. We don't hold to that.
That's what Paul teaches in Romans chapter 3. I've already quoted the verse to you, but you don't accept.
Okay, let me just. I'll pull up.
I want to come back to you as I'm asking you the questions as we agree. So we've agreed that Jesus didn't know everything, because there's an attribute of God that can be discharged at will.
Well, again, remember, just really quickly, Paul. I provided a logical defeater to the line of questioning, right? If I were to take your line of questioning and put it into a form of deductive argument, the conclusion is at the end of the day going to be
not a
contradiction,
argument.
right?
It's not a deductive argument. It's a question about God's attributes. You agree that God is all-knowing, but you believe that God can sometimes be ignorant. I'm arguing that's a change in God's nature. You say, oh, it's not an essential.
Well, hold on. Okay, so here's an embedded assumption. Wait, hold on.
Let me just recapitulate.
Right, but if every single sentence you say has an embedded metaphysical assumption into it,
everything anyone ever says about this has
right, and I'm showing one right there really quickly, then point out God changes if it's a bad thing.
Not subject to death, but
Paul, you had the opportunity to talk for a really long time, right?
Now the other attribute is all
so
power.
Let me just really quickly point to the assumption that's embedded, right? You said the phrase, okay, well that means God changed.
Yes. Of course it does.
The subtext there tells me you think that's a bad thing, that I shouldn't want that.
Well, God doesn't change. God's character is eternal. His nature is eternal.
Hold on. Well, that's completely different, right? Is God, like, does Christian doctrine necessitate the idea that God is immutable in the sense that there is no changes whatsoever?
It has done, actually, yes, particularly in Christian theology influenced by Greek metaphysics. You must know this, but God's perfection requires that God doesn't change. This is true.
That doesn't seem intuitive to me at all.
Well,
sure, some Christians thought this. Well, hold on. Some Christians have thought this, but there are other Christians who have not.
You asked me no question about what seems intuitive to you. You asked me about Christian theology, which is not you. That is
where within Christian theology, right? What authoritative source? What authoritative source is demanding, right, that I have to hold to some sort of like Thomistic metaphysics?
You see, what are you a Orthodox Christian, Russian or Greek or something?
I don't publicly.
We have a strong policy on this channel that we just identify as Christian.
You you won't tell me what church you belong to?
No, we're not on this channel. We've been for years.
You see, this is the problem.
He works for me.
If you're not going to disclose your beliefs, where you're coming from, if you want to hold back and not tell people what church you belong to,
this is not really, Paul. That's not fair, because really quickly, hold on.
If you
I am not disclosing those publicly because of a further goal. Has nothing to do with the fact that I don't want to talk to you, right?
Yeah, but you see, the question you asked was a very unfair one. Let me explain why. You asked me to point to authorities, ecclesiastical authorities.
And we can conditionalize on different sects if you want, right? So we can say if you're Catholic, then this. If you're an Orthodox, this, right? That's totally fine.
Then let me finish. Now, the question is premised on what your authorities are you willing to accept, but you won't tell me because they will disclose what your real Christian views are. So that's a very unfair question. So I'm going to.
That's totally fine. Again, that's why I'm saying we can conditionalize. Yeah.
And also, I don't accept them as authorities anyway, so this is a bit redundant in the first place.
Paul, we will tell you our beliefs. Paul, we will tell you our beliefs. What we don't tell you is our denomination. I'll tell you right now, I'm a monarchical Trinitarian like Joshua Sijuwade.
I asked Pan, what's your ecclesiology? Pan, what's your ecclesiology?
What do you mean when you ask that question?
Well, do you believe the Pope is the Vicar of Christ, for example?
I'm not answering that question.
But
like again, Paul, this will be the fourth time I'm saying this. Hold on, this is the fourth time I'm saying this. I am willing to entertain conditionals to talk with you through this, right?
No, I'm asking what you believe, but you're not willing to disclose fundamental matters of your faith.
Are you not? Well, hold on. It sounds like you just refuse to do conditional thinking with me. Then
you're refusing to tell me what you think about fundamental.
So I've established a personal boundary I've established a personal boundary that you're attempting to use as a rhetorical tactic against me when I'm saying, hey, because of these personal reasons, I'm not going to use this. Here's the boundary, but let me meet you halfway. Let's do some conditional thinking.
Yeah, you see, I've never come across a Christian before who won't tell me what they believe on fundamental.
I've never come across a person that's going to try to have a useful, fruitful conversation and refuse to do conditional thinking.
Ecclesiology is rooted in fundamental matters. It tells me what
conditional thinking is rooted in if-then statements.
So let me tell you how difficult it is. Because if you won't tell me your ecclesiology, I don't know what your authorities are. Let me use example. If you were an evangelical,
that's totally fine. That's why I'm saying let's conditionalize. If I'm a Catholic, then the Pope is the final authority. Fine. Then what?
Yeah,
let's conditionalize.
Because if you are evangelical, and millions of Americans are, you will not accept the authority of the creeds and councils of the church.
Okay, well, Paul, you just did it. You just did it. You just did exactly what I'm asking for. Conditional thinking. If you were an evangelical, then cool.
But I want to know what you think, and you.
Why do you need to know what I think? Why do you need to know what I think?
I'll tell you why.
In order to disprove the Christianity is an overall hypothesis.
It's not an overall hypothesis. It's a set of concrete beliefs in particular doctrines. It's not an abstraction. And when you ask me about what authority,
well, hold on, Islam has the same thing. Islam has the same thing. Anytime Mike and I present the Islamic dilemma, hold on. Anytime Mike and I bring up the Islamic dilemma, you can have the general category of Islam, and then you can have Islam sub 1. Whenever somebody takes one horn of the dilemma, in Islam sub 2, when somebody takes another horn of the dilemma, or Islam sub 3 when they do the mystery and Injil thing. Those are all different sub-models of Islam. In the same way, Christianity is a broad category, Protestantism and the things that fall under there, Orthodoxy and the things that fall under there, and Catholicism and the things that fall under there are all just sub-models.
Do you accept the first 7 councils, ecumenical councils, I mean, of the church?
I'm not answering that question, but I'm happy to do ecumenical. I'm happy to do conditional thinking.
We accept the Nicene Creed. I have met that. We accept the Nicene Creed.
Answering a question, my goodness me. So, do you accept the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah, of course.
When you say, of course, you've been telling me you won't tell me anything until
well, that's because that is not telling you anything about my denomination, right? Oh my goodness, you think I'm an Orthodox Christian?
You accept the Catholic doctrine of the Council of Nicaea. That's great. What about the Second Council of Nicaea?
Yes, I accept that as well.
Oh, good. What about you, Sam?
Yep.
Good. So now, right, what about the Lateran councils of the 12th and 13th century?
The closer and closer you get to things that me answering the question is going to reveal my denomination, the further away you're going to get from an answer from me, which is again why I'm saying, well, let's just see if it's a problem for the Protestant, if it's a problem for the we would have been done with this by now.
Yeah, this is absurd at this point. Like you're now just Paul, real quick, Paul, you're just interrogating us on personal beliefs. This is so far from the topic. We wanted to get into atonement theory and ransom theory and explain to you
about my beliefs repeatedly. And when you see, the thing is, when I do it to you, you don't want to disclose what your beliefs are. You practice, you hide them. You say, "Oh, I don't want to tell you what I believe about."
I believe in the. We believe in what the Pope is. None of that has to do with what we told you. We believe in ransom theory. We told you a belief. We wanted to talk about it, and then you just go down this long tangent. We told you we're monarchical Trinitarians. We will defend that. We told you that we believe this about the Bible or that, and then you just go off on these other things that are irrelevant to the original topic.
Do you accept Thomas Aquinas as a doctor of the church? Thomas Aquinas.
He is a doctor of the church. Yes, he is a doctor in the church.
What about you?
That doesn't mean I agree with everything he says.
That doesn't mean that, I can accept that and I don't have to agree with him.
Well, hang on, you do have to agree with him if he's a doctor of the church. Don't you understand what it means?
No, that's a Muslim.
Possible. It's logically possible.
No. If he's a doctor of the church, you're not supposed to reject fundamental doctrines of Thomas Aquinas.
No, that doesn't follow. That might be a Muslim belief. It's not a Christian one.
You're not Catholics then. You're not Roman Catholic. I deduce from the way you've answered that in a kind of yes/no answer. Yes, you like him, but no, you don't agree with him. That you're Orthodox.
I didn't say I don't agree with him.
I thought you just did.
No, I said I don't have to agree with him.
Okay, you're being a bit of a lawyer now.
No,
okay.
Look again. I'm just Paul. Clear. I'm assuming you care about logic, right? All I'm doing is laying out the logical possibility space, and I'm saying, hey, you asked this question. No matter how I answer it, nothing's really at stake here. Right?
No, everything is at stake. Do you know why? It's all to do with authority. If you can't tell me what your authority is, unless you're saying,
great. So if I'm a Catholic, what authority do I need to hold to that prescribes the belief in the immutability of God in the Thomistic sense?
Yeah, but are you though?
Wait. Okay, so this whole time you're badgering me because I'm afraid to answer a question, but now you're not answering the question.
I don't want a straw man argument about what you don't believe. Neither you or I believe.
It's not a straw man if I'm willing to entertain a conditional.
Do Mormons believe in the hypostatic union? Now, let's talk about Mormons. I mean, who cares? I mean,
Mormons are atheists. I don't care about what Mormons think.
No, it's precisely my point. You see, you are quick to say that about them, but I have no idea, because you won't tell me what your authority structure is about your beliefs.
Why do you care? Okay, Paul.
Why do I care?
Paul.
Okay.
Paul, for somebody that was saying,
man.
well,
Yes, man.
I'm agnostic as to what happened with the Injil, right? When you did that, you established a boundary, and I respected that, and we entertained other things or went about things in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the way it feels is you have a particular script of line of questioning that you want to run. You run into somebody that doesn't want to do that, but is offered an avenue of conditionalizing on different models of Christianity. But because you can't run your script, you're just upset. Like, that's the way I feel right now.
Well, that's interesting how you feel. But my problem is this. I'm talking to people who won't disclose their fundamental beliefs on important matters. For example, on ecclesiology and consequently about the authority of various traditions and creeds and councils. When you're asking me questions about Christianity,
Paul, if somebody walks into your house and says, hey, let me do this and this and this and this, and then they say, no, for personal reasons, I don't want you to do this, but we can do this.
The analogy is completely.
Is that going to be okay?
So, because I don't know, we're going to have to draw the conclusion. Let me just make a final point. We're going to end the conversation.
Go for it. Well, here, we'll let you go. Just we won't interrupt you. Go.
Right, please. The problem is this: because you won't disclose what you believe on fundamental matters, I can't really honestly interact with you because you're hiding things from me and all the viewers. You really need to be much more explicit. I'm follow the Roman Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox position, and we believe in these councils, this tradition, these theologians, this creed. But you won't give me any of us that information, and therefore I can't really interact with you because you hide your beliefs from everyone, and that is the problem. That's why one of the main reasons why I'm disengaging now. You have me back on when you're willing to be open about what you believe about authority, ecclesiology, the creeds and councils, and everything. Until you do, we're not really having an honest conversation.
Okay. Can I just ask a quick question in response to this? Okay.
Well, I suppose you could answer what I'm saying instead of asking me further questions, because that's my point.
Well, no. Okay. Let me just ask this question now, okay? Because presumably, at the end of the day, you want to argue that in some way, shape, or form, Christianity is false, and you want to do that by identifying some sort of contradiction within any particular framework.
It's not my view.
If that's not what you want to do,
I didn't let him interrupt you. Let him go.
No, I'm correcting him. I know what I believe, and what he's saying is not my belief.
No, I'm asking about your rhetorical goal, right? That's what you want to do by identifying my beliefs.
I believe that Christianity is mostly true. I've always said this. The vast majority of Christianity is true. You believe in one God, you believe in heaven and hell, and the angels and demons, you believe in the prophets, you believe Jesus the Messiah, born of the Virgin. I go on. Awful lot of stuff we have in common. We don't share.
Am I right or wrong?
Hindus or Sikhs or whatever. So when I'm saying disprove Christianity, that's not true.
Fine. Disprove the hypostatic union, the incarnation, the Trinity.
We have told
views, but to keep its true views. It's
Paul. Look, for somebody, again, that's trying to give me a hard time for just not disclosing some personal things, I'm asking you a very impersonal question, which is, what are your rhetorical goals, right? And you're sidestepping the question.
I don't have rhetorical goals, but you did say that I wanted to disprove Christianity.
Your rhetorical, you want to disprove the Trinity, incarnation, hypostatic, all that stuff, right?
No,
you do have rhetorical goals. You just said them.
Most of Christian doctrine is true when it comes to other things we never.
Okay, that's fine, Paul. But we answer the question. You want to disprove those 3-4 things? Yes or no?
Buddhists or other people. We share an awful lot in common.
I let you talk without you interrupting me. Okay, come on. You said you want to disprove those 3-4 things, whatever they are. Yes or no?
My point was, in conclusion, that unless you disclose,
it's a yes or no question, Paul.
No. This is my no. You see, you're getting me back on the track again. I've said to you before.
No. Fine. If you're not going to answer, if you're not going to discuss with me here, then let me just.
If you're not going to let me speak, I'm just going to talk over it and basically push me into your rut that I must follow. My final word, and
that's very ironic, Paul, coming from somebody that refuses to do conditional thinking. Okay, so instead, let me just make my point then.
I'm not interested in your further thought. I'm just going to reiterate my final point and then go. Because you're not willing to disclose who your authorities are, whether in terms of creeds and councils or magisterium or traditions or whatever, I find it very difficult to dialogue with Christians who hide their beliefs on fundamental.
You shouldn't. We've not hid our beliefs. We've told you we believe in this theory. We believe in monarchical Trinitarianism. We believe in this. You're trying to bring authority.
Really quickly, okay?
In the Lateran councils,
I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you questions.
Thomas Aquinas is fundamentally right as a doctor.
Paul,
no, he's not.
I'm not going to ask you a question. Let me just make this point then, okay?
I think
because hold on, no, dude, come on. I've let you talk, and you've even talked over me countless times. Just give me some space to say what I want to say really quickly, please.
No, because I'm going now. Because you won't be clear.
So you don't even want to hear me out.
Because you won't be clear about what you believe, we're going to have to end this conversation.
Because you clearly do not want to engage in conditional thinking.
You're the one who won't get engaged with what you believe with me. You're not being honest and open.
We told you what we believe. We keep telling you beliefs, and then you're like, well, what are your authorities? That's different.
Tell me what he believes about councils, about the papacy, about magisterium and tradition when it comes down to the details. Then he asked me about what authority I would accept.
Paul, when you leave and look back at these clips, I want you to count how many times I've asked, I explicitly said something, that's fine. Let's just say, if I'm a Catholic, then what follows? If I'm a Protestant, then what follows?
This is a game. This is
actually no, it's not in a game. In fact, it's even more nuanced than what you want to say.
Interested in saying, well, do Mormons believe this? Do Catholics believe this? Do Protestants?
No, I put three broad categories on the table, not Mormons.
I want to know what you believe, but you will not tell me what you believe on fundamental.
Here's the problem, Paul.
Let's just say, that's the problem.
No. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I let out my denomination, all that other stuff right now on the table. And let's just say, hold on. Let's just say all of a sudden, when we go through that conversation, can you please stop interrupting me? We go through that conversation after I tell you my denomination, right? And just for sake of example, let's just say you found a contradiction. Do you know what ends up happening there? I think that denomination is false, and I switch denominations.
Okay, well, that's fine. If that's what happens, good, fine.
Okay, but that's why I'm saying,
because maybe your denomination.
We should conditionalize on those things.
Move towards, say, you move to a more Unitarian position, a Unitarian Protestant position.
I probably will not do that because it has nothing to do with the church structure.
And we're talking hypothetically here. This is your example, not mine. Maybe you would switch denominations. Maybe that's great if you move towards a position closer to the truth. So this is maybe a good thing. But the problem is we're never going to have that conversation because you won't disclose your fundamental authority.
That's not true at all. Okay, we could have a conditional conversation. Let's pretend I'm an evangelical. Hold on.
Do you accept the Pope is the authoritative vicar of Christ on earth?
That has nothing to do with what we were talking about with atonement theory or attributes of God. It has nothing to do. This is deflecting from away what we were talking about like 30 minutes ago.
Do you believe that the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth?
I'm willing to entertain the conditional.
So, yes or no? I missed the subtlety in what you were saying there.
I mean,
yes, he's willing to entertain the conditional.
No, I'm asking you, do you believe? I'm not asking you to abstract.
It does not matter what I believe, right?
That the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth. Yes
Paul,
or no?
Paul, do you believe that the Injil is the law? Wait, no, stop. Do you
double standard?
Believe that the law? Do you believe that Injil is a lost book given to Jesus?
You see, then you're running away.
No. It's a yes or no question, Paul.
Whoa.
Rules for me and not for you?
I'm going to go now because you won't answer basic theological questions. You avoid. I want to deal with people who are going to be open and honest, explicit about their beliefs. Hide them. So I thank you, Than, for having me on. Mike Jones, I think you on as well. Inshallah.
Thank you.
But I do hope you be more open and honest about your beliefs in future, if not today. So
thank you for coming on, Paul.
I know we got heated, but nothing but love.
Well, nothing but love for you, Paul. But holy crap. Okay, breakdown. Okay, he's allowed to be agnostic about the Injil when we throw the Islamic dilemma on him, but we're not allowed to entertain conditionals. We have to tell everybody exactly what we believe. So notice, I want the audience to see the very obvious double standard, the very obvious deflection away from, hey, let's talk about atonement. It's bad. Oh, well, you have that in yours. Look, here it is right here. We have this right here in this lovely hadith, as well as in another hadith we brought up earlier, where it talks about Christians and Jews being a ransom from the hellfire. Deflect, deflect, deflect. We get back to attributes of God. He realizes he's not defining immortality right. And what does he do? Well, I need to know everything you believe. And he's equating authorities and beliefs. Man, that was something, man. I was having a ball. I don't know about you guys watching, but man, that's what they do, guys. This is what I love Paul. I pray for him. I'm so happy he came here, but man, there was a lot of deflecting from him. There was a lot of interrupting. There was a lot of double standard going on there. That was something.
Yeah, because again, look, I'm just on a social level, right? I can't put myself in a position of thinking, hey, this person has established a personal boundary and I'm going to use that against them as a weapon.
Yeah.
In a debate.
Well, when he said he's agnostic about the Injil, what did we do? All right, bro, we'll give you that. We hope you think more about this. And we were like, but I mean, we can still, the Islamic dilemma is still successful. But when it comes to us, no, I need to know exactly what you believe, everything. And we're like, we will entertain a conditional here. Or if Catholicism is true, if we are Catholics, then what follows? Wouldn't do that. And again, here's what I found very revealing, and I hope the audience saw this as well. We kept saying we believe the ransom theory. Can we explain it to you? He wouldn't let us. He did not want ransom theory explained to him. He wanted to push this penal substitution implied in his comments. And we were like, dude, you're not, your objections aren't going to land here because you're talking to people that hold to ransom theory. So let us explain it. No, move on to the next subject.
Yeah. Really quickly too, on the Islamic dilemma front, I was looking at the translation. I think the dilemma still runs, actually, even with this translation, because
first of all, I was going to say his translation was wild, man. That is not what it says.
Well, wait, just to be, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one too, since I'm not too familiar with all the translations. It's called the Assad.
I think I don't remember. This is all happening in real time. Okay. Go back and look.
If I'm looking at the right translation, these would be like the modified horns, right? Which is the Quran says the Bible is corrupted before Muhammad, then the Quran cannot confirm what came before, right? How are you establishing the criterion and all this other stuff if it was corrupted prior to this? If the Quran says that the Bible was uncorrupted in Muhammad's day, then the Quran affirms the authority of the Bible as it was then, which means it wasn't corrupted.
Yeah, same. Yeah, good point. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be nice to ask him that. I mean, here's the thing. He's like, let's take a holistic approach of the Quran. Great idea, Paul. Let's go to Surah 1094. Whoa, right. Whoa. I want to talk about this specific verse here. I don't want to go look at other verses over there. Nay. It's right. Like,
and then
okay, we'll go back to this one. It's still a problem for you.
I'm actually still processing the whole, look, I'm not going to tell you my beliefs, but I'll defend each denomination. And I'm the bad guy.
That was amazing. First of all, again, very happy to thank Paul for coming on. We appreciate the conversation. It got heated. No hard feelings, buddy. Honestly, I mean that sincerely. I'd love for him to come back on again. But unfortunately, he was the most interruptive Muslim we've dealt with all day. As you guys saw earlier in this stream, we had great conversations with Muslims. We were talking, and then all of a sudden, Paul's just like, no. And was like, bro, come on, man. Of the earlier Muslims, you know what I was thinking before we jumped in? I'm like, man, maybe I've been kind of too harsh on some of the Dawa guys, because these Muslims come in are great. They're respectful. They're nice. And then, Paul goes in and goes, let me remind you what we do here, folks. And I was like, there it is. There's the Dawa. But definitely doesn't represent all Muslims. And but we will have to upload that as his own private conversation, because that was an incredible gift. I'm so glad he showed up. We had a great conversation. We got a lot of our points across, as you guys saw, and he just had to keep deflecting. So super chats. Kiro's Philosophy. Go subscribe to Kiro's Philosophy. Love what you guys are doing. God bless. Thank you very much. Was the Quran written by an Arab heretic Christian? Probably at first, and then he became his own religion and just started doing some wild stuff. Who knows? I think we're talking Islam evolved and changed and all that stuff. Sijuwade, how much do you bench press and deadlift? The earth. He doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth away from you. Please do more call-in shows. Yeah, we probably will. That was amazing fun. I'd like to hear your perspective on the Islamic dilemma. Oh, he kind of gave it earlier, so I guess this was an early super chat.
He is currently reviewing a formulation that I'm putting together.
Nice. What are your thoughts on the tag? We don't use it. It's not our thing. We tend to focus on other arguments. Thank you for the super sticker. Muhammad didn't know if the gospel was corrupt or not. He couldn't read. That's the thing, is that he never bothered to check. That's what the strong implication is. And pre-cameras deconstructing in real time, the powerful stuff. It's fine now, so I'm glad it was good by the time Paul showed up. Dr. Sige, does God know the future, or does he just know every possible future, actualized future? For the former, I'm not sure how this works with free will. For the latter, I'm not sure how prophecy works. Why not both? He knows every possible future and the actualized
broken one. At this point.
Sorry about that. The camera quality in the Injil existed at the time of Muhammad. Yes, that is a huge problem, because you start going through the verses, man, it's clearly there. It's hard for them to get around that. Muslim sources say Muslim rapist is better than a good non-Muslim. Yeah. You have many Arabic Qurans. Trinitarian Ethiopians and Trinitarian Najran Christians were called the true believers in the Quran. Yeah. Very good point. A lot of problems there that relate to the Islamic dilemma. Why did Jesus command someone to abandon their family without any warning in Luke 9:61-62? Doesn't that contradict Paul's teaching in 1 Timothy 5:8? So real quick, you have to remember that it's different for every person. This is not going to be the same thing. So for example, when he called Peter, we see him later at his mother-in-law's house. So not the same there. Jesus goes to Mary and Martha after Lazarus died. Mary gets tears, Martha gets a sermon. This seems to be something specific to that guy. Just help for a new camera. Yes, it was an internet connection. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Is Allah meant to be the proper name like Yahweh, or is it meant to be taken as a title like Elohim or Theos? Yahweh is a proper name. It is the name of God. Why are you getting eye surgeries? Because I need glasses now to see far away. But when I wear glasses, I get dizzy and discombobulated. So I'm actually getting very lightheaded just walking around. So I need to get LASIK, basically, is what my eye doctor said I should do. Fortunately, I got to pay for that. So I've been saving up from different speaking gigs to try to afford that. But yeah, it's becoming really concerning. I'm just walking around the park and I feel myself getting lightheaded.
Dang.
Like, so yeah, it's just an issue for some people, but I got to get LASIK. So that's what I'm gonna do. Double standards deny the gospel that only come a handful of decades later, but affirm the contradictory hadiths that come hundreds of years later. Powerful. Yeah, it's question for you, Joshua. Well, he will hear you later. If you were to die and see that Jesus was real, would you convert to Christianity? Some for UIP, just vice versa for Allah. I'm not sure what this is in reference to.
Joshua Sijuwade was a Christian. Is a Christian, sorry. It was. Makes it sound like he's dead.
Have you all seen Steve Magua's video on Gehenna? No, I've not. Sorry. Blogging, since you like holism, how do you know which texts of the Bibles are corrupted? If you don't know, then you can't validate the Quran's authenticity since it claims continuity with Jews and Christians. Yeah, that's what we were trying to get to earlier, man. It's rather unfortunate that listen, he said he was agnostic. I was like, I will respect that. But he couldn't do the same for us on later issues. That was the issue, man. It was like, let's not do this, bro. Let's not do this. Let's have mutual respect. If I go and I present the Islamic dilemma and they say, I don't know how to answer this, you know what we do? We go, you can see it when we were at that Dawa table. I was there with Avery, God Logic, and David Wood. It's on David Wood's channel. When they said, we don't know, we said, we respect that, bro. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Get back to us. Yeah. In Islam, Christians pay for Muslim sin. Yep. That's what we were trying to bring up to him. Paul is notoriously guilty of using this term, top scholars, as if the work of some scholars are worth less or more than others. Don't let him get away with that kind of anti-intellectual rhetoric. I don't think we did, but appreciate the super chat. Imagine just cherry picking typical Muslim. Thank you for your
I don't know
chat.
what to do in the situations where people just like won't stop interrupting you. It's like, do I be a jerk and just interrupt more, or do I just?
I have a policy.
Weak? Or do I look strong?
My policy is we match fire for fire. If you're going to do that, it's going to happen to you. As people saw from throughout the stream, were we interrupting those Muslims?
No.
Rare, maybe once or twice if we had to clarify something, but we let them talk, we let them go. We had really good conversations, and then all of a sudden Paul comes in and things get derailed. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, not a man who married a 6-year-old. Alhamdulillah. I know this is off topic, but I need to know Than's favorite dinosaur. I asked him in the Discord server.
Man. What's the one with like the cool like head shield thing?
I don't know.
Okay, well now I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay, give me 1 sec.
I'm losing my mind at y'all letting Paul walk over you two. Newsflash, Paul, Jesus is more merciful than Allah, who hops on his shin all day. What's your Akida, Paul? I'm sure a lot of the Ummah would disagree. Listen, here's the thing you got to understand. He was not walking all over us. We were letting him bury himself. I do this in debates all the time. If you want to be that guy, I'm going to let you be that guy. And then the audience is going to get annoyed with you. They're going to see it, and they're going to be annoyed as well. That's what we want to do. I did this in my debate with Aaron Raw. If he wants to be that loud guy that screams, go for it, bro. I'm going to sit there, be the calm one. Same thing.
Oops. Wait,
let me.
Here we go. Here's my favorite dinosaur. I just like the shape of their head. That's all.
Elder Dawa troll. Paul here to preach no conversation. Ignore some scripture and explanations, but God forbid you ignore a specific verse he wants to point out. Alhamdulillah. I'm a Mormon Muslim. What now? That's true. This is the powerful Elder Dawa troll. Why was Muhammad suicidal after his visitation by Shaitan? Whoops, I mean Jibril in the cave. Good question. That's an issue we brought up as well. Why did he deliver the satanic verses? Why did there was a hadith we brought up earlier about him actually being bewitched? I mean, these are issues. Paul, I believe that JS was mentioned in the Quran. Joseph Smith in Surah 12, I believe is what you use. Yeah. So is Paul Muslim or atheist? He apostatized and reconverts so many times it's hard to keep up. Paul, we the audience don't care about their denomination. Exactly. And none of that had to do with the topic about atonement theory, about the attributes of God. It's a Muslim idea. You got to know the authorities. That's not a Christian idea. You don't have to know that to have a conversation. You can know my beliefs. I'll tell you them. I'll tell you what I believe about Genesis, about the Trinity, about the attributes of God, about atonement. I just put it all out there. I see we still have some Muslims in the back room. Guys, we've been going for 3.5 hours. I'm going to wrap up and do super chats. We're going to take off. We're going to do more of these in the future. Please come back for them. Than is exhausted. Look at the poor boy over there. We need a break. So I appreciate some of you guys hanging out there, but please, I don't want you to sit there if you're just waiting to get in. We are exhausted and we've been going 3.5 hours. So we will do more of these. So please come back in the future, but we're not going to do any more of these. Paul taking over people to avoid defending Islam. Running from his script. Ha ha ha. I like when you brought that up, Than. Like, I think you want to run a script and I'm not following the script.
That's how I felt at the moment, right? Because it's just like, well, if you can't run the script, you can't run the argument. But like, you could still technically run the script even by just conditionally thinking.
Are you saying that Paul wanted to run a Dawa script? Never heard of a Dawa script before wanting to happen. Sorry, guys, but we really should learn how to debate a Muslim. Don't follow the rabbit trails. Keep on topic. Make them answer. It is your stream. Listen. We were doing that earlier with respectable Muslims. I wanted him to do that stuff. I wanted you to see how belligerent he was going to get. I wanted him to go down that stuff and keep deflecting so we could call him out.
I don't even know. I didn't even know who he was prior to this. I was like, oh, this looks like a pleasant guy.
No, well, it's blogging theology. If this was just another Muslim and he started doing that, I would have muted and taken control. But he's a big dude. I was going to show that mutual respect as a fellow YouTuber. Fine, you want to talk? You want to go down these rabbit holes? And he did go down the Islamic. We did if you notice, we went down that kind of stuff with him on the Islamic dilemma, and then he just had to admit he's agnostic about this kind of stuff and had to move over. And we were like, that's fine. And then we let him do his thing. So it's a give and take. I'd also agree. If a Christian Jew dies today, then they'll be sacrificed on the day of resurrection as ransoms for Muslims. Paul is talking over people and deflect away. Yep. You all saw it. That's what they do when we bring this stuff up. They got to deflect. You can't deal with it. You guys should have demanded respect, not his dhimmi. I wanted him to keep going. That, like a dhimmi is like a second-class citizen or a third-class citizen. Okay. Christian or a Jew living under Islamic rule. This guy needs to join the Olympics for mental gymnastics. He would win gold. Powerful. Could you make a response to Dan McClellan's recent video in John 20:28? Maybe. It sounds like fun.
I'll put it on my to-do list to look.
Yeah. Why does the claim Jesus is fully God and man actually entail? What does it actually entail? In the sense of first person, what was it like to be Jesus? How was his experience any different than ours? That is a good question. What is it like to be Jesus? I don't know. What is it like to be me? You don't know that. I don't know what it's like to be you. That's something only Jesus would know. This is one of the issues of the hard problem of consciousness. So
there's so, oh my God, there's so much to say there. Maybe that could be a fun video topic because it's like omnisubjectivity, all sorts of stuff is kind of encompassed in there.
Yeah. I meant if Islam was true, would you become a Muslim? This is from an earlier super chat. I'm not sure what this is for.
Maybe he asked a question. Okay. Oh, when he asked Josh if he would become a Christian, what he meant to say, would he become a Muslim?
Oh, all right. This earlier one. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, if Islam is true, I think the logical thing would be to become a Muslim. Yep. So, yeah. Thank you, Truth Finder. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to close this out because we've been going for 3.5 hours now. But that was fun. I definitely enjoyed the earlier conversations more. And yeah, a lot of good stuff we got out of that.
What was the Dan video on? John what? Do you remember off the
John
top of your head?
20:28. Yeah. I did respond to him a little bit like a couple months ago when we were having a back and forth on Mark because he brought that up. So I'd be curious to see how he's going to get out of this one because when I've seen him do videos on John before, it's such an eisegesis. It's very much like I have this divine name theology, and I'm just going to read that into everything Jesus is saying. I had Robert Bowman Jr. on the channel back in January to respond to videos of Dan, and he said in one of those videos that John 8:58 was a cryptic saying.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, you're the guy that's always telling us to take the plain meaning of the text, and now John 8:58 is going to be a cryptic saying. What is this going to be like?
I got some fun stuff with the divine name stuff too.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, appreciate everyone coming. We'll be live on the channel Monday with another guy. We're going to be responding with Coley from TikTok. We're going to be responding to Sheikh Uthman, and that should be fun. So come back to that one, and there'll be a new video out tomorrow. Numerical miracles in the Quran debunked. Should be fun. So thanks for coming, everyone. We will see you guys next time. And this was a blast.
Yeah.
Such a
Oh, wait. Somebody's saying we missed the super chat. I don't know if it's too late.
It's too late.
Okay.
Wait, no. When Muslims say the Bible is corrupted, do they think there was just one Bible that was passed around or someone got a hold of that and corrupted it? Bro, your guess is as good as ours, man. We keep trying to figure that out. And they're just like, we get different answers from different Dawa guys.
You know what's really cool about conditional thinking is the new formulation of the Islamic dilemma that I'm putting together. You don't have to figure out what they think. I've just laid out the possibility space and said, if this is what follows with everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're going to different answers to different Dawa guys, but everyone comment after the stream. That'll help you get more views. So please do that, like and comment. And I'm going to close this out. We will see you guys next time. You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.